Oh, this thing's fucked up.
Hello, guys, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio, number 27, the voice of MGTOW. I am your host, Brian Martinez. No, it's okay, Swedish Chef, it's fine. It's not like this is some professional shit, okay?
I would second that remark. This thing is pretty fucked up.
We've already broken everything, so go back to the introductions, I hope.
No, it's fine. There are plenty of eggplants waiting in the chat to hear from us. So, I'm your host, Brian Martinez, and I am joined by Max Derrett.
International friends and enemies of various persuasion, it's always a pleasure to be on this show. We're doing a show on MGTOW, which can only mean three things: partying, heavy drinking, and relentless oppression of the female gender.
Right. And speaking of partying and drinking and relentless oppression of the female gender, we have Mike.
Is that me? Is it? I definitely do a lot of drinking.
Two of those things.
Oppressing of the female gender, obviously, but
Yeah.
my partying days are over.
Well, it depends on how we're defining the word party.
I party by drinking and oppressing the female gender. It's a laugh riot, don't you know?
That's correct. And Happy New Year's to you, sir. It is what it is, right? And
Somebody's New Year.
yeah, it's somewhere it is New Year's. That's what they say.
On some planet somewhere it is.
And then we have a host of other men going their own way have come into the chat to discuss, men going their own way. So, quickly, I'll just go through and introduce who we have. I'm just going to go and read your names as they appear on the boxes, because I'm meeting some of you guys for the first time. So, Schultz Brigade. Say hello, Schultz.
Howdy. How are you guys doing?
Okay. RK Fortune.
Yo, how's everybody doing?
MGTOW Universe.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, what's up? Swedish Chef. You know what? Just leave it black. It's fine. Swedish Chef. I can't hear you. No. All right. I'll just keep going. Oh, we lost him. I thought that was.
Jesus Christ, Swedish Chef, you're already the world capital of sock dress, and you keep messing it up.
You just failed. Oh, Jesus.
And Magnus.
Hello, I am the one that the feminists and the SJWs refer to as the redneck Satan. They refer to me as Beelzebub.
What the heck? Okay.
Whoa!
Muting. Somebody.
Oh, Matt's screwing us over.
Oh, wait, that's coming from. What is going on?
Mute Matt. Mute Matt.
Good news, everybody. I got my bike to work.
Matt,
Take out Matt. Or mute him. There we go.
Maybe that was his language. I feel bad.
One can only hope.
And we're at trolling already.
Ow, my ears.
I'm sorry. That was.
I'm
I'm
already
sorry,
down.
Matt.
It's all good,
I'm gonna give your spot to someone else. All right. So we're here to basically speak to various men going their own way and just sort of like get a feel for where they're at and just sort of shoot the shit. And like I think one of the biggest questions that we want to ask is how did you find it? How do you feel about it? What does it mean to you? How has it been useful to you and that kind of thing. But before we go into that, I'm going to read some mailbag items. And you guys in the chat can respond if you wish. Just type your name and, we'll make a comment. So here we go. Matt L. writes, y'all, I like how he actually wrote y'all, Y''ALL. Y'all were certainly correct when you said that you weren't qualified to really talk about MGTOW, but you still managed to present a somewhat sympathetic view. I suppose I am a MGTOW, but not really by choice. I don't follow Barbarossa or any of the other cult-like leaders. I've been forced out of society and relationship by modern feminists. Here's a little about me. I'm 6'2", 190 pounds, and I have a full head of hair. I'm an IT professional making about $100,000 a year, and I own my own home, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 220 square feet, or 2,200 square feet. That 220 sounds amazingly small. I also haven't dated anyone in over 15 years. I haven't been laid in over a decade. The last time was when I was on a business trip to Prague. Since then, even expressing Prague, Prager University, Prague. Since then, even expressing an interest in a woman has caused a bunch of feminists to engage in group psychodrama and have hysterics that drove me out of a hobby I was enjoying very much and wound up screwing a major part of my life. I've realized there really isn't any place that I'm actually welcome as a straight white male, and the risks of being interested in a woman outweigh the likely results. Yeah, over a decade with the most intimate physical contact being the occasional handshake. I have no illusions about my sanity. So against my nature, I've decided that women are on their own. In her day, Kitty Genoverse may have been a tragedy, but that's how I have to consider all women. You're on your own. If you're being raped and murdered outside my bedroom window, that's your problem, not mine. You have declared that you are strong and independent, so good like with providing for your own safety and well-being, I cannot afford to care. The downside for me is that I am strongly wired for a K-selected society. Not caring about those around me is incredibly difficult. And since Western society has been so tremendously successful because of being K-selected, we're fucked. I suppose since I have no family, no hope of family, no close relatives, that I really shouldn't care, but I do. These days, the one thought that I have every single day is I will blow my brains out today. Not that anyone would care. It would be months before anyone would have noticed that I was dead. It's a real letter. So, let me see you. Max, it looks like you put your name in the chat first.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, first and foremost, I just want to say, Matt, even though it sounds stereotypical to say, I care, okay? And I hear a bit of echo as well. I don't know, Brian? Yeah, I was just going to say, I care, and, dude, if you ever needed somebody to talk to, I mean, I know I'm just like some 22-year-old Canadian that goes to a liberal studies university, but I care and I want to help as much as I can. Anybody that feels down about their situation in life, just by talking about random stuff can actually alleviate these types of feelings. But just to address a couple of specific things about your letter, I just want to agree with you that it's interesting how, like, in the age of digitized communication, the fact that we're always so connected through social media, one key aspect of the human experience has sort of been amputated by the fact that with the rise of technology, our dependence on other human beings has sort of softened. And prior to all this, it was sort of, it seemed like an ideal thing because, you know, sometimes dealing with people can be seen as a nuisance, but in the process of that, we sort of lost the ability to be able to empathize with each other. Not just women being able to empathize with men experiences, but also vice versa. And when you send in letters like these and you have the words they have to share, it's pretty exemplary, and I think the reason why we're doing this show today is just so we can give light to these things that, even though like MGTOW gets a really bad rap, you know, just for whether deservedly or undeservedly, a lot of the time it comes from people that are really hurting on the inside, what with the way that certain things are stacked against them, and sometimes we just have to hear them out. So yeah, thanks very much for sharing that with us. And if you want to take me up on my offer, I'm at Max Darrett anywhere on the relevant forms of social media. I'd love to talk to you. That's all I have to say.
All right, Max. RK Fortune?
Yeah, you pretty much covered everything I was about to say. Basically, yeah, if the guy seriously needs to talk to somebody, he should, because right now he's really hurting.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let me see if there was anyone else. Oh, Magnus? Yeah, go ahead, Magnus. Or Prego?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if that was
I don't know if
him
that
putting his name
was
in.
a reference to, but oh, you're not Prego? Okay, that's good. because that would be some shit that we'd have to like get on the phone for. This call means nothing if a man's pregnant. Magnus.
Well, see, I'm finding that that's a typical problem with a lot of guys is they actually care too much. So, in a way, MGTOW is kind of hard for a lot of the guys that are fresh into it because they have trouble with being lonely. And a lot of the times, what it is, I mean, yeah, you can care too much. The problem is what you got to learn is kind of, I know it's going to sound kind of cheesy and old-fashioned, but you got to learn to pick your battles, learn what is most important for you to care about, and just kind of tell everybody else to, as I usually put it in my parlance, to go take a flying leap off the top and go fuck yourself mountain.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely choosing your battles is helpful. You can't. Some people want to take on the whole world by themselves, and that's just too much pressure for one person. Schultz?
Oh yeah, and I've actually heard this with a lot of, not even just adults. I've seen this with a lot of kids with not having anywhere to go, feeling this isolation. With the kids I've taught and stuff like that, and it's one of those things that I think the biggest concern is that we need to be focusing on boys and teaching them that it's okay to reach out for help and to actually encourage a community among men. And I do think MGTOW does offer a small part of that in one way, shape, or form. One of the early stages of kind of putting your life back together depending on how bad life has kicked you down. And kind of MGTOW does, I do see it as encouraging you to pick yourself back up and kind of march your own way if you know how the world is.
Yes, definitely. Lexicon.
Yep. All right, good. I was just going to say, in reference to that especially, it's been a big part of my experience kind of sorting out this whole thing, that there isn't really like an obvious, hey, this is another option. Like if you decide to reject the traditional setup, you ask, okay, well, what else can I do? And the general response is just kind of a blank stare, like, you want to do something different? So I think that's a big positive aspect, just getting the idea out there that you do have options, that you can't, you can do something other than just the usual, 2.5 kids, picket fence, yada yada.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to add is that I think the most challenging thing for because one of the things that I found is really interesting that this guy who writes a letter points out is he says, I suppose I am a MGTOW, but not really by choice. And so if he's sort of feeling like this sort of thing has been thrust upon him, then he hasn't really done, I think, the preparation, like the mental preparation for that lifestyle. And I don't know that that's really quite the same. I mean, Fortune, did you want to comment on what I was saying?
Yeah, well, basically, if he's saying that it's his choice, or that he's forced into a choice, then really he's completely and utterly wrong. He has choices to make. He's chosen in that direction that he's chosen. So basically, he's already made his choice, and he's upset for whatever reason that is. He's putting other people into the level of blame. So he's kind of passing the blame game around.
Yeah, you know what it reminds me of, and I don't like using this because I only heard it used in one other context, and it's probably one that we don't want to think about. But it's sort of like the involuntary celibate. That's what I think of, right? Because the thing is the way I see it, and I mean I don't want to claim to own the definition, but part of what makes a man going his own way is that he is making a conscious decision to not live his life according to the way that the average man does, which is often essentially chasing after the approval of women. And that's this guy still looking at things through that lens. Like he says, I haven't dated in a long time, I haven't been laid in a long time. So that's the way he's defining his life. He says, I haven't dated in over 15 years, I haven't been laid in over 10. And that's one of those things that if you start saying, like, this is the way my life is, and all of the stuff that he's done, like he makes good money, obviously, he lives in a nice place, he has a fulfilling job, but those things don't mean as much to him. He's looking at, like, the approval of women aspect, and I think that he's dwelling on it, and I think that that's where the problem is at. Tio?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, you're really low.
Let me see if I can fix that.
I can barely hear what you're saying. It sounds super duper low. Can you I'm gonna go to max. Can you play with your gain maybe, or maybe hold your microphone a little closer, and I'll come back to you. Max?
Yeah, basically everything that you just said, Brian, about how a lot of modern men tend to have a lot of their identities, and the pursuit of a positive identity for themselves is based on the positive responses and approval of women. It's like Dave Chappelle once had a bit, and I often reference this in my videos. Excuse you. There's often a bit that I reference in my videos where he talks about how there are certain tests in life for men and women. He defines women's test in life as material, and he defines man's tests in life as a woman. And he notes that, and this doesn't go for all men, right? He says that when it comes to the stuff that men buy, they do it just so they can try and impress women. He said something about if a man could fuck a woman in a cardboard box, he wouldn't buy a house. Now, obviously, that's a large overgeneralization, but you get the point. And what Matt L. here is saying is that he feels that his identity, he has no other choice because that's what the majority of our identity is predicated on. And what is really great about MGTOW is that within the community, a lot of other men have felt the same way, and they could sort of provide resources and suggestions for them to try different things within their life, different experiences without having it focused in this very narrow way. There's so much stuff that you can do, right? So you got to go out there and just seize what you can instead of just trying to be bogged down by the sadness and the traditionalist standards of courting and dating and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, Max, that's right. Tio, is your microphone working now? Let's hear it. TOH. Can you... Okay.
Better.
Oh, wait. Go ahead. What was that?
Is that any better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm on a tablet. It's a nightmare. Okay. So just regarding the letter, it was very interesting. I don't think, like you said, I don't think he's really MGTOW. I think MGTOW is something that you come to choose, not something that you feel is forced upon you. Definitely, he sounds like he has problem socializing, and it really makes him feel isolated. And MGTOW is definitely a place where he can come to find people that can give him the right kind of advice to deal with that kind of lifestyle. So even though I don't think he is MGTOW, MGTOW is a good place for him to go.
Yeah. Thanks for that. That's good. And MGTOW Universe.
All right, so he's what I would consider a purple pill because he sees, I guess, romantic relationships for what they are, but he still has hope. And I would agree with Tio that, I mean, he hasn't, what did he say, he hasn't been laid in over 10 years or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's making $100K a year, why doesn't he just get a hooker or something like that? I mean, obviously the money isn't the problem. I'm confused. I don't know what the problem would be.
I think, I mean, like, if I had to guess, if a man is making that much money and they're not getting laid, that means that if they bought a hooker, it wouldn't satisfy them, and they know it already. But that what they're looking for is not just sexual release. I think he wants a closeness. He wants to be valued as a human being, and he probably doesn't even. I mean, I don't want to pretend to know his deal, but I know guys that make really good money that are very suspicious of women. So what they do is they don't tell women that they make that much money. They don't live that way. They live like in a very sort of plain way, because if they find someone, and these guys are all purple pill too, if they find someone, they want to be, you know, they want they want intimacy, but they want it to be like what they think is real. They don't want it to be something that comes from, you know, the fact that they have money. And they're not looking for just sex. I think they're looking for closeness. I think this guy wants to feel valued as a human being, you know. To women, though. So I'm sorry, I'm giving you the floor.
How old was he?
I think he said he was in his 30s. Actually, he didn't give his age at all. He's 6'2", 190 pound, has a full head of hair. But I would guess he sounds like he's in his 30s based on the fact that he traveled to Prague about 10 years ago. Excuse me. So that means he was probably working professionally around that time, and he earned. You know, it takes a while to start making that kind of money. So my guess would be like he's probably in his 30s.
Wow. Yeah, my only guess would be the same as Teal's, that he's socially awkward. Is the only thing I could come up with.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably right. Let me see. I'm gonna give the Magnus.
I almost feel like I should have trouble with my mute button and say right a lot, just so it doesn't feel too unnatural to the audience. Really, what the base problem seems to be to me in the MGTOW community is that a lot of these guys are kind of pushed into it by bad circumstances, and really, well, the first thing these guys absolutely have to do is learn to get along with that asshole they stare at in the mirror in the morning. That was one of the biggest things I had to work on when I kind of first got into it. And once you kind of become comfortable being in your own skin, which is a problem that I absolutely curse feminism and social justice for doing, is making it impossible for men, and especially straight white men, to feel comfortable in their own fucking skin. I mean, that's the person you have to live with for the rest of your life. Get used to it. Once you get used to that fact, and you know, you kind of become comfortable with yourself and kind of forgive yourself for being who you are, then you can move forward a lot easier. That was what, you know, that was what it did for me. And I haven't had a relationship in fuck knows how long. Don't really care either. You know, I mean, it just, like I said, you know, you learn how to, you know, once you get to that point where you truly care about yourself and understand yourself and feel good about yourself, then it kind of comes a little more naturally to, you know, as I said, pick your own battles and learn what to care about.
Yeah.
I am done.
All right. Thank you, Magnus. I'm going to jump ahead to Mike, and then I'll go to RK Fortune, because Mike hasn't talked in a little while. Mr. Mike? I can't hear you if you're talking. What's going on? So many technical issues.
It's just the manosphere. It's okay.
Oh
It's
my God.
what it is.
Okay. RK Fortune, go ahead while we wait and see if.
Yeah,
Mike...
no worries. We'll wait for Mike to figure what he's doing. Cool. No, basically, when it's all said and done, a lot of us have already pointed out some of the major problems here. If this gentleman is, say, mid-30s, he's got to kind of look at himself deeply to make these choices that he wants, and come to the conclusion that he's got to be satisfied with himself before he can actually satisfy anybody else. Join a hobby. Get a couple more friends, talk to each other. You know, you have the money, the power, and the means. He's got the opportunity to do something. If he's just going to, you know, sit around and complain and contemplate, you know, suicide, then that's the worst thing he could possibly achieve.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was going to give this.
Go ahead.
Oh, Mike looked like he was going to say something.
Yeah, I know. I was okay. Mike,
Did
is
I?
it working? Oh, there you are.
Well, hey. Okay. Yeah. Mic issues. Did you see what I did there?
Oh.
Okay. Okay. So Teo said earlier that MGTOW is something you choose, not something forced upon you, and I agree that it's not necessarily something forced upon you, but nor is it necessarily something you choose. I mean, I sort of consider myself a MGTOW, but I'm MGTOW in the same way I'm an Aries. I turned up on this earth, and at some point somebody told me, if you're born between these dates, you're an Aries in this lexicon. And all right, I guess I'm an Aries. And then later on somebody said, if you're a man and you have no interest in getting married and little interest in hooking up, then you're a MGTOW in this lexicon. So I go, okay, I guess I'm one of these MGTOW of yours. And this is perfectly natural, so, culturally and biologically. We're a primate species, and a pretty weird one. So we're not autonomous species, but we're not strictly a pair-bonding species either. So there's bound to be a lot of... most men are going to want to climb the chain of breeding, because that's what we're driven to do, but inevitably there will also be some men who don't. It's simply how it differentiates. And to some degree, this guy, we're still talking about that first letter, aren't we?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, and that guy sounds like he's, not naturally the Tesla type. He's that he kind of wants to be on this ladder of some description. Well, because he hasn't been laid in 10 years, and he feels like ending his life, which suggests that he defines his life as being someone who is in this rat race of trying to breed. And this is times where I say occasionally MGTOW is not the answer. Because there are some situations where it's not. So there are certain things that MGTOWs can teach you about how to create friendships with men that can bring you the belonging you need, or even friendships with women that give you the belonging that you need. But if someone really does need some kind of intimate relationship, then with a woman, then I really struggle for advice to give them. Certainly within MGTOW. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
My mute button's a little weird. Yeah, I totally get it. I think that I'm going to give the floor to the next person, but I think the most important relationship that a person, male or female, can work on and build is the relationship with themselves. And I know that sounds really trite, but I think it is really important. I also, and I say that because I think that these kinds of conversations and these kinds of movements and these kinds of thoughts are not unique to this generation. It just so happens that we're having a bigger conversation about it because we have access to the internet now, and we can have like these sort of communities that come together and discuss it. But I can imagine in my head guys in like the 16th century that were thinking the same thing from all different levels of status and social backgrounds and from different cultures that were also in these positions but did not have access to like-minded men. And I think that's one of the reasons why we live in, I think, such a special time, because we can actually do that. It's special. All right, so I'm going to give the floor to, who's next? Is it Lex? And I want to try and move on to, because we have more letters. So we'll do Lex, Max, and Tio, and then that's it, and then move on to the next letter. Okay, so Lex. Mr. Lex, are you still there? Wait, where are you?
Yeah, I said
yeah.
never mind. No, we ended up covering the point I was going to say.
Oh, so you don't need to. Okay, Max.
Yeah, I was just going to say one quick thing. It's sort of hard to deduce from this guy's letter what his circumstances are in life, whether he is sort of socially awkward or not. I'm just going to go on the assumption that he is. As somebody who's sort of a high-functioning autistic and had a lot of trouble just looking in the eye or being able to get out words growing up, even into high school, one thing that really helped me out, just as pure suggestion, is stuff relating to drama. I took drama for 4 years as an elective, and thank God that I did, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to articulate my thoughts as well. I wouldn't be going into school for radio and starting a career basically just doing talk radio and producing it technologically and just creatively. So maybe just look in your local area to see if that's something that you want to try out. Maybe. It worked great for me. So
Definitely finding your interest of something that's just yours can be really helpful. It's another part of that, building your relationship with yourself. Tio?
You know what? You can skip me. I think that was a good way to cap it off.
All right, cool. All right, so I got more men going their own way, waiting in the wings. I need one person to drop out. So I'm thinking of a number.
hello?
That was creepy.
Where did Brian go?
7.
What
The
happened?
number 7.
I'm going to go with pi.
But what is it between? I don't know.
Can I go with the number Q?
It's always 7.
Damn it, Brian, I'm scared. I can't handle this on my own. There's too many dudes. Okay.
I choose the letter isosceles triangle.
Okay. Yeah. So, I guess I'll do it because I'm the co-host. Okay. I'm thinking of a number between
MGTOW.
one. Oh, there he is.
Shit.
Brian, stop trying to make the Kool-Aid dog happen. It's not going to happen.
I'm not trying to make the Kool-Aid dog happen. Is the Kool-Aid dog happening?
No, it's not. No, it's just you sort of dropped out.
Oh shit. Okay.
Can hear you
No
for the
wonder
last
there was
30
a pause. No, I'm sorry. If you guys didn't hear what I said, type your name into the. I mean, not your name. Type a number into the chat, and the number that's closest to the one I'm thinking of will be the one that has to go. Oh yeah, we will. Let's do that first. But okay, hold on. I feel like this is just going spaghetti like crazy. All right. We did do 1 in 10, Lex. Or Swedish Chef, you want to volunteer? That's fine. Thank you, sir. Do you want to say anything before you go that you didn't get a chance to, though?
Go MGTOW.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Peace out, guys.
Yes.
I love your meatballs.
All right, thanks. If anyone, if you guys just choose to volunteer it, that's fine. MGTOW Universe, you want to introduce yourself? I'm sorry, I should have let you guys do that before.
My name is Kenny. I don't mind telling my real name. If you want to come get me, I'm waiting for you. I'm 31, live in Florida. Been in MGTOW since 2012. Started out as a PUA, I'm going to say, 2001 through around 2008. And went on YouTube, found out about man-woman myth. Man-woman myth led to Mark Rudolph, which led to Tom Likas, Likas 101, which led to Patrice O'Neill, one of the greatest human beings ever. May he rest in peace. Which led to Barbaros and Gore Writes What, aka Karen Strawn, and that led to Stardust, and then I became a MGTOW from there.
You know what? I'll go around and ask everybody that question. But before I do, I want to ask you, what made you go from PUA to MGTOW? Like, what? Not just the videos, but like, what was the thought process?
I got burned out. I used to go to clubs 4 or 5 days a week, and one day I just woke up and I just asked myself, are women even worth all this effort? I used to buy clothes like every single week, cologne, shoes, everything, just for a shot in the dark. It's just you get burnt out. It's like they say, too much of anything is a bad thing, and going out to the clubs 4 or 5 days a week will do that to you.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And do you have any strong feelings either way towards the pickup artist community? I mean,
no,
like,
I don't have.
Go ahead.
I don't have any beef with MRAs or PUAs. I think we pretty much, or IBMORs, I think we pretty much have the same thought process when it comes to how women think and behave. It's just how we go about solving that problem is where we all split off into different directions, in my opinion. But I don't have any beef with anyone.
Okay, no, that's good. That's how I define it. I've met people who have come to me and they've said, "Oh, I've heard about the red pill." They don't know much. They just know that, and they don't know what it means. And they conflate all three of those groups plus other ones. That the people who don't really belong to any of them, or maybe they overlap a little. And I have to explain that essentially it breaks down to MGTOW, PUA, and MRA, and there's overlap even within those. Like there are some people who identify as two or even all three.
Right.
But essentially, all it is a reaction to that knowledge.
Right. It's men who do things that men aren't allowed to do. Is basically what it is. Men aren't allowed to advocate for their own rights. They're not allowed to go their own way, and they're not allowed to pick up women. They're not allowed to have theories as to how to do these things.
Right.
Because they're all considered unfairly manipulative of women, even going your own way. A lot of women will think, how dare you do that? That's not what men are supposed to do. You're supposed to come here, and you're supposed to shut up about your human rights, and you're supposed to, you are supposed to pick us up. You're not supposed to talk amongst yourselves as to how to do it, because that scares us.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the thing. None of those things are things that guys are supposed to do. All right. Yes, I'm working on that, Max. Okay. Let me ask Magnus, and we actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have room for one more in here, so I will get a guy on Twitter. Magnus, why don't you tell us how what your journey was? How did you find your way here?
Mine was rather simple actually compared to most because my mom is the one who told me to go MGTOW, even though neither one of us knew what it was. And just for a little context and background for this, my mom was a 1970s feminist. Dun, dun, dun. So, my mom was like, Magnus, why don't you well, I mean, she doesn't talk like this, but it was kind of that feel of, why don't you just hold off on any dating or marriage until you find somebody you can actually trust and, get along with? And I was like, okay, that's fine. And, I just kind of dated a little bit here and there over the years, and finally I was like, I don't understand why women do half the things they do. So I started finding PUA videos, not to learn how to pick up women, but just to kind of understand the madness behind their method. So, I started watching PUA videos and eventually stumbled across MGTOW videos, and I was like, oh, that's what they call it. Okay, I guess I'm a MGTOW. So mine was, rather simple. I'm more of a Zen MGTOW, I guess you could say. I kind of came into MGTOW by osmosis.
I find it really funny that your mom told you to do it and that she was a 70s feminist. It was like she saw where the shit was going and wanted to protect her son. That's the only thing that it could be.
Now, Brian, here's the funny part. When I got more in depth into seeing what modern third wave feminism is doing, and all the men's rights and everything, I told my mom about this, and just the look on her face was kind of that look of abject horror, like that, oh shit, what have we done kind of look.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. All right, let me go on to the next person because we have lots to get through. Schultz, how did you find it? How did you find it? What was your process?
Do you want the short version or the long version?
I think, I don't want to make it too short, but you don't want to go forever, so, an abridged version, maybe? Not like the back of the book, but
The short of it, or the trimmed down version, was pretty much a very horrible, abusive relationship. Which alien's trying to abduct me?
Sorry. No, that wasn't me. I was just.
I muted Magnus. It was him. You're getting a little feedback, Magnus, but it's okay. I muted you.
But no, it was a very abusive relationship that ended with her breaking up with me because she was trying to control me, and because I pretty much said fine, I'm trying to get out of an abusive relationship, she made death threats against me. She she did a lot of horrible things, false rape accusations, and pretty much, in the short of it, she derailed my life the way it was going to go, because at that time I was on the fast track to have 2 PhDs, being a medical doctor, and a few other things, and after that I had to fight for my reputation. I had to do a shit ton of things to pretty much get everything back together, and the few times I did it afterwards, many of the women I had tried to date with, the few of them that kind of like were the idea that they wanted quote-unquote traditional relationships, they really were not anywhere close to the realization of what a relationship should be going to. It was a lot of pampered women who think that, oh, you should be taking care of me and you should be doing everything in the relationship. And just seeing in my city, Brian, how bad the city is for dating, that when you have a very gynocentric feminist mindset, you get a lot of women who pretty much think the relationship is all giving from one side, and it's just seeing that type of, that's how it's going to go. You're asking me to give up everything myself and no give and take for return, because I was raised in a quasi traditional family. I did have my great-grandparents and grandparents have influences on teaching me what masculinity is, and then having these women who were raised by pretty much either single mothers or a feminist perspective, they had no idea of actually how a healthy relationship worked, and I'm like, fuck this shit. You're asking me to pretty much commit seppuku on this shit, and I'm just like, no, forget that shit. I'm not gonna hurt myself. And I just thought, you know what? It's better for me to focus on myself, make myself happy, and if anything comes my way, even if it's just a woman for friendship, that's fine by me. It doesn't. I'm not really looking in that department, but I just look at it like this. It's the likelihood of finding the quote unquote unicorn. If it happens, I seriously doubt it. But I'm not gonna deny there's good women out there at all.
All right. Well, that sounds like you know, the goal is to basically be free of it, just to feel free from all that. All right. Let me ask Lexicon. Same question as everyone else. Lex?
Yep, there we go. Can you hear me now?
That's okay.
All right, sorry. The interface is a little slow. Yeah, so I guess I'd have to say I kind of came by it slightly less dramatically than maybe some, but I like to think maybe a pretty common sort of experience. I spent a lot of time being kind of like, you know, the weird outcast kid, you know, the creepy guy kind of thing, which I know you guys have talked a lot about on the show about.
Well, I mean, you don't have a face, so
yeah, sorry.
I can see how I might react.
Should I change that? Is it becoming?
No, it's fine. I'm just joking.
Okay, no, it's right. Anyway, and kind of got used to the idea that that's just that was true of me. Like I kept hearing it often enough that I kind of just accepted it, and spent several years kind of grappling with that and sort of questioning my self-worth. Like, you know, why am I this way, and you know, what could I possibly do about it? And that was kind of a really difficult time for me for a good while. But I more or less kind of started to say, you know what, I'm just not even going to think about it. I'm not gonna think about women that way. I'm not going to try to think about them in like a sexual context. Just, you know, they're just other people, and you know. And then I kind of fell into kind of backwards into a relationship, and that was, you know, it was all right. It did eventually end, and when I realized that it bothered me less that the relationship was over than it did that I had lost my job, like that was a bigger deal to me, in terms of like how it upset my life and how it changed things. I think it's when I realized that I was like, you know what, this really just isn't. It really isn't anything I'm interested in anymore. I'm no longer telling myself that. It's just not an issue for me, and so I'm just kind of trying to figure out where to go from this point. That's kind of rambly. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. That's fine. That's we're all about trying to give the people a voice. So, RK Fortune, I don't think I asked you that question.
No, you didn't. Most people don't. Like Magnus, I was kind of born and created this direction from my mother. Again, I'm a child from the 70s, so that was pretty basically the direction that we went, where men and women were virtually, for the like or not, were kind of considered equal. May not always be in the office place, but that's what we were raised with, that we can achieve to become anything that we want. Roughly about the 80s, 90s, I saw a massive turnaround on the gynosphere, and making dating a little bit more challenging and harder. After a while, I mean, I kind of saw the writing on the wall that men were going to become public enemy number one, and from I'm going to try to figure out exactly whereabouts to go, what direction that we can call one, or at least I can call myself, and kind of found out that MGTOWs actually exist. I always thought we always had existed. It's kind of funny. But yeah, for me, it's always been the same thing. Born, raised, taught, and I live my life straight on, just doing what I want to do. If anybody wants to come along with me, great. If they don't, fuck you then. It's pretty simple.
That's right.
Real talk.
What's up? Real talk.
It's real talk. It's pretty simple, straight up. You don't like it, move on.
Real talk. Mike, I think you already mentioned it, but you pretty much
Yeah, like I said, I didn't decide to become a MGTOW. I just sort of always was one. Arguably, I was even a child going his own way, if there's such a thing as that. But the reason I decided to call myself MGTOW was kind of because of identity politics. Stay with me. It's sort of kind of ironic and paradoxical that there is a collective term for people who reject the collective. So you have to be careful about that sort of thing because it can really get quite culty. First and foremost, you have to figure out where people are coming from, why they identify with this movement, have some fucking empathy and so on. But then you have to be wary of people calling themselves this thing for the wrong reasons. And I think a lot of men get into it because they want an identity for very similar reasons that a lot of SJWs get into fucking LGBT issues and whatnot, because they just want a group they can identify with and whatnot.
Or a cause to fight for.
Yeah, so in some way, I want MGTOW to exist. I don't necessarily think it needs a name, but I don't want identities to corrupt any of this shit and turn it into, like I say, a cult. But this is why I don't sort of. I hardly ever fuck with MGTOWs. There's a lot of guys who do. Like TLD has fucked with MGTOWs a couple of times. It's resulted in some very grinding conversations. But for the most part, I let people get on with their own business and let them speak for themselves. Well, sort of. I say for the most part. The only fuck with I ever did with MGTOWs was through prison rules. You go up to the biggest, meanest guy in the joint and pop him in the head, and then no one fucks with you.
Yeah.
Oh, I would.
That's why nobody's heard of RBK anymore. He went home with his tail between his legs.
Nice.
Well, yeah, we haven't seen him in a long time. I was gonna say something and I lost it. Oh well, maybe it wasn't important.
You just want that dog back, don't you?
I kind of do, but it's all right.
What about yourself?
You know what? I do have it. You were just talking about this rejection of identity, which becomes an identity in and of itself. It's sort of like the people who basically go out of their way to not be a part of something, and then in so doing, they all start looking the same. And they all start acting the same because they're trying to be outside.
So what, emo kids?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, like, I think inevitably, like, and then there are people who try so hard to reject what they think is too popular or too mainstream, and then they end up all becoming sort of like a part of their own popular and mainstream collective.
Everyone wants to be the black sheep, so you end up with an entire herd of black sheep, and you end up with several different herds of several different kinds of black sheep until you wonder what the fuck happened to all the white sheep.
Yes. Now, and this is why I asked, and this could be a bit of a controversial question, but I'm curious what you guys think. All right, so in this first letter, the guy says, this is his quote, okay? I don't follow Barbarossa or any of the other cult-like leaders. But then, of course, we know that in his mind, he was sort of forced out of, the traditionalist path that he thought he was meant to walk down. But he also thinks that being MGTOW, he's not sure about how he feels about it. However, he also, in a way, he makes a jab, right? So, do you guys think that do you think that there's any validity to what he's saying?
Well, I'm going to jump in on this one. Don't mean to be rude or anything. When it comes down to the idea of cults, I don't follow cults, and I don't think anybody should really, drink the Kool-Aid willingly or not really true willingly or whatever. I'm not too sure exactly where this mindset is, but there's quite a few who are within any community, whether it be feminist, MGTOW, or whatever, that seems that they have no choice or any kind of independency when they actually do. I just don't see how this mindset continues and how it's not self-destructive in any way. We've created a whole generation and continually create a whole generation of self-doubting, loathing individuals who have some degree of narcissism, and we've got to find a way to fix this, whether it be a MGTOW way, a feminist way, or whatever. There's something that's screwing us all up. And I kind of have to focus on the way how each generation has been created and try to be better than the next. And this is the problem. We're doomed if we keep going in this direction.
Doom!
Unfortunately, that's the word, doom.
Well, that's a bit strong, maybe.
Well, no, because of the fact that if you look at the current wave of the actual birth rates in just basically the Western world, me looking at the last few, say generations, if we continue this pathway.
No, yeah. Magnus, I'm gonna let you talk. Go ahead.
Well, now, one of the biggest problems I see is, our culture is sort of the, like, neo-narcissistic almost. That's the only way you can really put it. I mean, you get all these people that they're so desperate to belong, and they get all these other people telling them weird crap about, oh, you can be trans Keebler Elf or whatever the hell, and identity politics just really pisses me off, because it's like, oh, how do you speak social justice warrior? Oh, it's easy, just go bah, and it's like, oh my god, these people, they've gotten narcissistic to the level where my definition of narcissistic is being desperately, madly in love with the smell of your own farts.
Sometimes my farts smell pretty good though.
Oh, not mine. Mine are horrifying in a degree.
They look like it from here. No.
Everybody likes their own brand. Come on.
Everybody likes their own brand. Tio, then we're talking about the. Well, you can comment on what Magnus was saying, or the original letter quote that I mentioned, about these, the more prominent voices, and how whether or not they represent the movement, or if there's something to follow, or they're just simply people with opinions.
Okay. Yeah, I did want to say something about that. I think there's some validity to not wanting to centralize on a certain person, a certain set of ideas, because I feel like MGTOW is a lot like atheism, in that it's not something that you're striving for in MGTOW. It's a negative. It's something you don't believe in, or something you refuse to participate in. I really think it's and in the same way, atheism, you can't really pick an atheist leader, pick somebody who's going to lead other atheists, because how do you organize like that based on something you don't believe in? It doesn't work. There needs to be a positive involved, something that's going to be created or sustained. So I think in terms of MGTOW, it just philosophically, just men going their own way. I think everybody's view of MGTOW should be more personal, and it shouldn't be something that is being distributed. I mean, there's one thing is talking about ideas, but another thing is trying to lead people into, and trying to lead the group MGTOW into what you think it should be.
Yeah. No, that's great. Next is MGTOW Universe, I think. I'm trying to keep track here. Yeah. You're
all right. All right. So I'm gonna kind of take a shot at Stardust and Barbarossa here, but it's not like shots fired kind of shot. I don't know if you all remember, about a year and a half ago. I guess there was this falling out between MGTOW and MRA about if married men could be MGTOW. Now, MGTOW to me is,
oh shit, here we go,
is defined by the individual. I do understand both sides of the argument, that if you're a married man, or if you have a child, it's going to be hard to do whatever you want, because now you got the system that's backing the woman. I get that, but at the same time, Stardust has been saying some stuff, especially lately, talking about some if you don't strive to learn more, then you're not a real MGTOW. And I'm just like, that's some bullshit. And Barbarossa has been trying, like, these two guys, I've been listening to them for, I want to say, 3 or 4 years now, and they have taken this route of trying to make a static definition, and I'm against that. I mean, I do, again, I understand that if you're a married man, it's going to be hard to do whatever the hell you want to do because you're doing it under the threat of divorce and child support. But at the same time, telling men that they're not MGTOW because they don't adhere to these sort of guidelines, that's some bullshit.
Okay. No, I see what you're saying. So you're basically saying, like, to an extent, you can see how there would be some central principles, but it wouldn't make sense that there'd be someone saying these are the rules of this thing that you know, like, can or cannot do, essentially.
Right.
There are guidelines to qualify for this label, and if you don't meet them, then you're not appropriate for the label for some.
I just see it. I just solely see it as kind of like label. I don't see, if you're a MGTOW, then you believe in these certain things, because I know when more and more people, especially with the falling out with the Stardust Sandman falling out, there's going to be more and more people that joins MGTOW, and they're going to want to remix the idea to their liking. And so if you're trying to have like this grassroots idea and you're trying to hold that up, it's just not going to last.
Yeah. All right, Schultz, what do you think?
Well, I'd like to talk about the cult leader first one.
Okay.
With the cult thing is like the one of the things I've seen with a lot of the areas with people following them almost religiously is that many of those people seem to have a very bad or horrible past. Something's happened to them, or lack of a father figure, and I think this is why people probably reference them as cult leaders, that they do have a certain amount of charisma about them that you do see when you don't have a father figure in the home or a father figure kind of like guiding their kids. That type of thing really is a strong pull, that they're looking for a strong male figure one way or the other. And you do see this, and you see kind of like, this is why I argue why people call them a cult leader, is that most I've seen a lot of the MGTOW, at least in my area, that they haven't had a father in their life, and they're desperately for a strong male role model. And I wouldn't doubt that a good portion of those that vehemently foaming at the mouth defend them are probably someone who has this kind of past. Now, on the idea of a married MGTOW, actually, there was one joke I saw on Rick and Morty. I think it was a best way of describing it. It's like having a platonic relationship with a hot woman. It's purely theoretical type of thing. I'm not saying it can't be done, but looking at it, that I think is the hardest one to pull off, because being purely independent would be, in many senses, not having the responsibilities that could easily pull you one way or the other. I was told by my great-grandfather, he had said that you're only as happy as the least happy person in the relationship, in a marriage and stuff like that. And that has a tendency to have a strong pull on you, and I'm not saying like that's a bad or evil thing at all. I'm just saying like you will have tendencies to pull you one way or another, so you wouldn't be as free as an individual make choices. But I'm not saying in the sense like that's evil and bad. I'm just saying like you have these extra added responsibilities to yourself, that if you're going down that route, be prepared to know that you're not going to actually be as free as you think you may want to be.
All right, thank you, Schultz. That's true. Magnus, I think you were next, but I may have lost track. Were you next?
Well, I was next in line. See, what the big problem is a lot of the reason, Schultz did hit on a lot of the reason why these guys do seem to gather around these cult leaders, but they seem to be the groups in MGTOW that everybody sees. They're like the best analogy I have for it. It's like the kid who's like, well, fuck you guys, I'm taking the ball and going home. And then they grab the ball and they just walk to the end of the street and stand there going, see, I've left, I'm over here, you guys don't have the ball. And everybody's like, well, yeah, fine, you said you were leaving, what the fuck? And, most of the MGTOW guys I hang out with, we're like the guys who, we didn't even bother saying it. We just took the ball put it under our arm, and walked home. You know, when we had better shit to do. It seems to be what the biggest problem with it is, and it just boggles my mind. I mean, they're telling, like, a lot of the guys that do the hangouts with me, you know, they're telling these guys, oh, you can't be, you know, like J Double G, he's gay, and they're telling him, well, you can't be MGTOW because you're gay, and you know, then we got one crossing ways who's a trans MGTOW, trans woman, and they're like, well, you can't be you can't be MGTOW either because you're trans, and it's like, why the fuck not? They're still dudes. It's men going their own way. I didn't think, you know, straight, white, and whatever was a qualifier. What the fuck?
Yeah. You know, that whole, when you mentioned the people saying, I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home and I'm going to let everyone know. On the Honey Badgers, we have a Facebook page. It's called the Official Honey Badger Radio Facebook group. And occasionally, and also there's a Gamergate page that I follow that does this too. You'll get like this random person that never really posted very often, and they'll come on there and they'll be like, you know, I joined this page because I like what you guys stood for before, and you were all about men's rights, or you know, you're all about like ethics and journalism, but now I see that you're all just a bunch of hateful bigots, and I'm gonna leave. And they would just make this big announcement about it. It's like the trumpets and shit, and I'm like, bye, Felicia. I mean, that's who are you? Okay.
I think they just don't want the original idea of MGTOW to be watered down and be transformed into something completely different.
Yeah, well, I think they want to maintain a purity.
Right.
Essentially. Yeah. Schultz?
Yes.
Oh, wait, did you go already?
Yes, I just went.
Wait, then where? Okay, Tio, I think. Oh, no, RK Fortune.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm awake. Cool. No, basically, I thought the rules were pretty much straightforward. Men going their own way. What more is there to it? It shouldn't be bi men or straight men, white men, black men, or whatever. It's men in general going their own fucking way. That's the only rule. Whatever these other wannabe cult leaders or wannabe e-celebs want to say, they're still kind of messing up the fucking deal. And that's what pisses me off. This thing has been around a lot longer than most of us have even thought of. Before the even name came around, men have been doing their own shit for a very long time. A lot of the times, they've been forced in situations that a lot of them don't really want to do, but they have to do it anyways because of societal structures and the way society will view it. My great-grandfather was a pro wrestler back in the day when pro wrestling was still carny, going from town to town and that. He did his own shit, but when he came home to his wife and his children, he spent as much time as he could with them, and then did his own thing while she was taking care of the house, doing her own thing. People just have to realize that the rules are very straightforward and very clear and easy. You do your thing. You like doing your thing, you continue doing that thing. If you want to change it, then you change it. You're not forced into the situation. You're just kind of left to, you know, figure it out. And that's the biggest gripe I have when it comes down to your most of the movement as when it comes down to the e-celeb version of it. These people are crazy because they're infeuding with each other, and they become no worse than what, feminists infeuding with each other. I thought we were supposed to be bigger than that. All right. So the other thing we have to figure out that I'm getting an echo. Oh, cool. I forgot what I was going to go with. Yeah, no, basically, we have to remember what the rules are. This thing has been around for a lot longer than most of us. We're just coming to the conclusion that this is the way things are supposed to go in some cases. So.
No, yeah, well said. I think it is really simple. And I'm just going to give a shout-out. MGTOW Universe said, I love infighting, new ideas get shared. I agree. It's the only way we like really break new ground with, you know, these things. We have to. I think arguing is good, as long as it's not, you know, pointless.
Right.
Well, again, I will agree. Arguing is good. It does give you new ideas, but there are points where you just continue arguing the same point over and over and over again and not breaking new ground or not gaining any stride. You're actually dividing yourself and the effort that you just put in.
Oh no, yeah. As long as it's you're heading somewhere, and the person you're doing this with has an interest in broadening their perspective. If it's just like, my way or the highway, you're not going to make any progress with that person. I know, because we've had Kevin Logan on like 5 times.
Yeah, I know. I've listened to those 5 times.
Okay.
I listen.
There will not be a 6.
Really?
What do you mean there'll be a 6?
There will not be a 6.
There will not be a 6.
Oh, good.
I actually enjoyed those.
We can only hope.
Oh, I mean, I did too, but it's just we're trying to get different people on. Maybe one day, I don't know. Maybe. Depends. Okay, so
The accent overlords is welcome. We're
Yeah.
perfectly peachy with feminists over there.
I hope you like your ass raw. That's how it gets cooked. Bloody as hell. Dio, you're up.
Okay.
Dio.
I did want to say something just regarding the whole can MGTOW be married thing. I've been thinking about it since the question was posed, sitting here, and I think they can be, because I think, for me at least, I feel like MGTOW at its core is a protest. It's saying men are going their own way because the way society has laid in front of you is no good. There's traps and pits and all sorts of bullshit that you just want to avoid. And I think MGTOW is a protest of, I'm not going to go down this way until it's fixed. Now that feeling is split in the community. I think there's a group of people who think it's never going to be fixed. And that's maybe the people that drift more into the PUA side of things. And then you have the MGTOW thinks it can be fixed, and that's more the MRA side of MGTOW. But I think if you think the system is broken and you think it should be changed, I think, or if you just think the system is broken and you want to vent about it, go ahead. I think that's great. And if you're going to get married, I hope you're in the lucky half that it works out for.
All right. I think I'm going to read the next letter. So I know, Magnus, I know you put your name in. Did you want to say something really quick?
Well, yeah. Here was the real problem that I'm seeing with the cult leader type MGTOWs. The ones, like I said, they're standing on the corner, like, I've got the ball and I'm left. I'm not in the game anymore. No, what it is a lot of the shit these guys spout bothers me because a lot of these guys who come to MGTOW, they're fresh out of they're freshly wounded. They're just fresh out of a bad relationship, and talking down to these guys and well, MGTOW has to be this, and if you're and these guys are confused and still a little bit blue pill. And it's like, if you're telling them they can't be MGTOW because they still hold those feelings, you're really fucking it up, man. I mean, these guys are hurting. What are you going to do? Just pour salt on the wounds before you try to bandage it up, or just pour salt on the wounds and not try to bandage it up? What the hell?
Yeah. That's true. Thank you for that. Let me read the next letter, okay? All right. 20K BC8, I'm going to say 20,000 bitch, I don't know what else it could be, writes, greetings, honey badgers. I've been a fan for several years now, and I listen to every show without fail. You do amazing work. I heard the call from MGTOWs to contact the honey badgers, and I thought I'd respond. I'm emailing this anonymously because I don't have the courage to tell the truth under my real name, and because my voice is distinctive enough that I wouldn't want to risk being identified by talking on an internet radio show. Okay, I'm just going to say as an aside, I'm predicting that this is actually Seth MacFarlane, and if he actually spoke, we would know. Or somebody famous, like Mark Hamill, I don't know. I don't identify as anything because unpopular labels are a good way to get people to hurt you, but I agree with almost all MGTOW beliefs. Marriage is clearly a trap in which men are beaten down and robbed, and dating is little better, rather. There are multiple laws in every Western country specifically designed to screw over men and give extra power and money to women, though admitting this will make people despise you. There are anecdotes by the millions wherein men are ruined by romantic relationships, but MGTOWs are smart enough to avoid this nightmare entirely. I don't date, I don't have sex, I have no desire to get married, I don't want to have children. This means that I've nullified feminism's strongest weapons against me. Any sexual desires I have can easily be met by the gargantuan amount of porn on the internet, which is free, effective, and without obligation. As an aside, that's just for now. I'd probably be better off if I stopped jacking off entirely, but I lack the willpower and desire to do that right now. The resulting effect of MGTOWing has made me happier and freer than I ever have been. By ignoring society's unreasonable expectations about me, I have more money, more free time, and more personal fulfillment than my unfortunate contemporaries who are bogged down with crude obsessions with sex and appealing to women. I try to preach my pseudo-celibate, non-committal ways to others, but they rarely listen. I also try to enumerate the many abuses of psychoses of feminism, but even fewer listen to that. Our society is so feminist that the idea of questioning anything a woman says is verboten unless the woman belongs to a group on the bottom of the social justice caste system, like Christians, libertarians, or non-feminists. The one thing that bothered me about your call for replies is that you said you'd be willing to have the penis havers of the Honey Badger Brigade do the talking to MGTOWs if they didn't want to converse with women. This bothers me because the idea of excluding half the human race from my daily life strikes me as absurd and immoral. I talk to women just fine, probably better than most men because I'm not trying to fuck them. I'd be living a lesser life if I entirely cut women out of it, and I just want to treat men and women as equals, something that feminism has claimed to be their goals for at least a century, and something that can get you punished severely. I do sympathize with MGTOWs who want to completely avoid the Y chromosome deficient, though because they've probably just been screwed over and over by feminism and women in general, they may have found no sympathy from a society and no help from courts. I love you, honey badgers. Keep up the good work. All right, thank you for that. Looks like Max is on the draw.
I'm on the draw. Yeah, this letter is pretty much like everything that this man said. I pretty much agree, and he's a pretty good example of the MGTOWs that I do have a lot of respect for, because as people have sort of been messaging me throughout this entire show wondering why I'm not talking. It's primarily because I don't identify as a MGTOW. I do have some problems with the movement, but I do respect the fact that there's a very good reason for it to exist, and I love to talk to people who I self-identify as MGTOW. But the point is, sorry, just to get back on track, is the thing that he brought up here that sort of made me sort of respond so positively while Brian was talking was the fact that he didn't like the fact that we were excluding women for this particular show. One thing that sort of has bothered me, and this doesn't go for most MGTOWs, but some of them, is that when you're talking about hypergamy and stuff like that and just instincts towards just trying to be in one's own self-interest, if you were to try to explain MGTOW concepts to women, some MGTOWs, like I said, not all of them, just some, believe that women can't understand these concepts because they're slaves to their hypergamous instincts. And what this gentleman here is doing is noting that, yes, women do have the capacity to do that, and that's sort of the side of MGTOW that I lean towards, because I sort of want to create alliances with women that want to sort of speak up and help men with their issues rather than just completely exclude them. That's all I wanted to say.
All right. Who next is RK Fortune? Looks like.
Well, I was going to jump in on that bit about marriage. What he's failing to understand is that marriage is actually an endowment for both male and female. So this is going back to like, I don't know, 1200s, probably more. Yeah, the idea of it being in the West as one-sided for one particular, gender, that is true, but everywhere else, it's not necessarily holds water. Each religion has their own different idea of what marriage is supposed to be. Each culture has their own ideas of what tradition and what is held behind marriage, as in the practice and who has more power, if any. Respectively so, your parents hold more power over your marriage when it comes down to, let's say, in an Indian tradition than anybody does. the two people who are going to get married, are the ones who are forced into a situation where they don't know who they're marrying. So they have no control.
Yeah.
So this idea that marriage is just a gynocentric idea, it's wrong. So we got to move past that part and see marriage for what it is. It's just an arrangement between two parties making up an legal agreement of shared properties to strengthen that particular group of families to be better than the other groups that are around them. That's it. It's just a business relationship. Get that passed and get that moving on, move forward, then you can actually see the next part of the problem. We are eliminating and excluding the other side of the equation, which is the females. If we can actually find a way to explain to them our point of view in a way that will have them understand it, then it's more power to us, whether it be MGTOW, non-MGTOWs, or those who just kind of fall into that area, that gray zone of being in a MGTOW. And that's basically what we can actually, be a bit better in achieving, and possibly going even further than, I don't know, say our feminist counterparts. The MRIs are really good at trying to, keep that boundary going, but they can only go so far with us and help us out. We're the ones that need to step up and start explaining it for both genders, what the deal is of what MGTOW is all about. Once we get past that, then maybe we just might be able to find a better ground for all of us to live together as as equally as possible. Have fun.
Okay, Dio.
Okay, so I kind of wanted to address both the letter writer and what RK just said. First, the letter writer, you sound like you're doing great. All green, but don't stop jacking off. It's healthy, so it's not good.
It's healthy for your prostate.
Yeah.
Here. Keep going. Keep jacking.
Nothing wrong with that. It's not gonna lead you into temptation, so it's fine. Then the other thing about marriage, I agree with RK. Marriage at its core is a contract. It's an agreement between two people that they want to share these aspects of their life with each other. And they want that binding, and they want that recognized by others. The problem is, and I don't like to sound like a libertarian, because I don't, in a lot of things I don't think I like to be that, but they always say this is a libertarian argument that government needs to be taken out of marriage. Because,
I would agree with that. Government should be taken out of marriage.
Because that's where all the problems stem from. The fact that the system has been lobbied and twisted and mutated, where it's not fair, and it's a money-making industry where lawyers siphon the crumbs of a crumbling household, basically, and they just siphon off the edges while the other two people rip it apart. And then judges can't be trusted to make impartial decision between a man and a woman, just because biologically speaking, women are always going to be more favored than men in situations that involve punishment. They're just biologically, both men and women are driven to go easier on women. So it's just not something that a person can judge in their position. That there needs to be another way to handle these contracts that's not so open to being manipulated and being twisted.
For the record, Dio Brando approves of masturbation as often as possible.
That is correct.
If possible, have Honey Badger Radio on in the background while you're doing it.
Yeah, you should definitely listen to the Nerdcast or something.
Way ahead of you.
Schultz.
Yes. There was a brought up of hypergamy and how it's talked about. And my biggest thing is, I was talking to Max about this a couple days ago, right?
Woohoo! Yep.
Yeah, and I was talking to him about, excuse me, that when it comes down to it, it is a natural phenomenon. It's a biological adaptation for survival. for the human species. And as I was talking to him with it, it was like the issue is that in this modern age, we really don't need to worry about that, and we have institutions that kind of allow hypergamy to go out of hand. It's not that women can't overcome it, is that we are indulging in adaptations that are, for the most part, not really necessary to cater to anymore, not necessary to really properly have in the large amount that we have it now, because we look at no-fault divorce. One of the issues that when I was first a kid, it sounded like a great idea until I started looking at it. It's like, oh, everyone goes their own separate ways, but it never goes like that. And that they allow a person just, oh, I'm no longer happy, I can move on and go to another guy if I want to, and yeah, you got to foot the bill for me. It's like, no, if you're going to do that, the consequences of those actions is he gets his shit, you get your shit, and you go each other's separate ways. And constantly indulging in that, oh, no, you're the poor weak victim, oh, no, you're the poor one, you need to get the money. Like, no, it's like those type of institutions that really hurt men so much. They don't allow men to actually be able to thrive and live through what should be just a dissolving of a contract. And the fact that the divorce courts, they're not a true, I would argue they're not a true court because you don't have a jury system. The judge is judge, jury, and executioner. And it completely destroys the man without actually giving him any legal proper precedence and protection. And another one, at least marriage in the West, and specifically the United States, it became a civil institution around the Great Depression to pull in money. And it's like, and I do agree, like, you remove that and just keep it a simple, basic contract between two individuals, and it will solve a lot of things out because it's plain and simple. It's a contract between person A and person B, and if you want to dissolve it, there are consequences, and that person who wants to dissolve it has to have legitimate reasons for dissolving it.
All right, Schultz, that's great. I think Lex is next. Hopefully I'm right. I'm like having trouble keeping up with the chat. Lex?
Yeah, Lex must be next.
Yeah.
Yeah, hang
Lexicon?
on. I'm trying to get unmuted. Am I there?
Oh, that's all right. I know there's a delay on some people's machines.
Yeah, all right, cool. One thing I just wanted to touch on when we got to the idea of marriage as like a business contract kind of thing, I think that would be like a fantastic kind of a goal to kind of see it in that rational light, but I don't know if I could say that that's particularly realistic, at least anytime soon. There's so much emotional territory wrapped up in it. You know, sometimes it can be kind of a false front, like, oh no, a prenup, don't you love me? You know, why do we need a prenup if you love me? Like, you know, kind of transparently, I'm trying to protect my own personal interests against you. But for a lot of people, they really feel that way, you know, be it because of the kind of atmosphere around it, that the marriage is somehow supposed to be separate from all that, that you're not supposed to look closely at it. You know, like you can negotiate when you're buying a car, but when you're getting married, you should just accept whatever the other person throws out there and just roll with it. And I think that if we're going to, continue to have it as a legal document with legal repercussions, that the attitude really has to change. We have to look at that and say, you need to be serious about this. If we're going to be able to break this agreement, we need to have certain like defined rules on how that gets handled. And it's so weird to me that it's still treated as like somehow that's the romance killer. Oh, you can't talk about that, like it's going to end.
All right. Thanks, Lex.
No problem.
I'm going to go ahead and read the next letter, so there's nobody's next. Let me see. MGTOW thoughts. KJ here. You gave me some serious food for thought when discussing how kids are raised these days compared to older times. My family lost our family farm when my grandfather died of a heart attack in his 50s, 15 years before I was born. When I was growing up, my father was working 60-plus hour weeks. He was almost never home, and when he was too tired to deal with me. My mom was often sick when I was little. My brother, who was 10 years older than me, hated me. So my sister, who was 9 years older than me, was my main caregiver when I was little, and she resented it. My closest friends growing up tended to be girls, as for other reasons, many of the boys my age in the neighborhood didn't like me either. In grade school, my best friend was a girl. She would often be teased because boys and girls are not supposed to be friends and hang out a lot in grade 3 or 4. Growing up, when my mother wasn't sick, I went everywhere with her at all times, even weekend trips, because my father needed what little time he had at home away from stress/me. I went to my mother's every social to get together. My life was 95% more female growing up. I had zero male role models, except a father I rarely saw except at dinner time, when I had to be quiet and calm, or I would lose out on eating for the night. I wonder what went wrong with me. It's a little on the vague side, but that is an unfortunate story.
Is he dissenting towards MGTOW? Is he like trying to just
I think it sounds like he's entertaining MGTOW thoughts based on his life experience, but he's not necessarily identifying his label. He's looking at his childhood and his experiences growing up. It looks like RK Fortune wants to talk to that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of disappointing that he actually views himself as a nuisance in that, even though while growing up, he kind of got that mixed feelings, or that those signs in that he was a nuisance. Unfortunately for him, he was just in a really bad situation while growing up. The only thing I would suggest is seriously talk to a counselor and see what will take in order to get past that. Those ideas that kind of he was ingrained with while growing up. I think there's more to the situation than it is, and honestly, MGTOW may not be his first choice in this case. I really think counseling would be his first choice.
Oh, I agree with that. I think he may want to look into some self-help, which is something that for some reason a lot of people are very wary of doing. Like, it seems like
I really don't understand that, Brian, when it comes down to it. I mean, seeking out help that's beyond you or your family structure is a good thing. There are people there are people out there who are designed, or at least have been instructed in a way that has been taught to help you and are able to listen. Yeah, okay, it may cost you like $70, an hour or whatever, but there are people out there that actually do it for the sake of doing it. You just have to find those right people, and there's hotlines in that, literally. I mean,
yeah. I mean, we have there's a weird aversion to therapy.
I just don't understand it.
And I know that Lex, you said that this is something that is taboo for men. I think that people in general avoid it. I mean, they may do it for different reasons, but I think that people, like, when you think therapy, you think I'm crazy, and then nobody wants to be thought of in that way, and I think that people generally avoid it.
I do have a friend who's trying to find therapy, but he also finds excuses to not get the help that he desperately needs. Even though I go out of my way to find therapists and that within the community that I know, wanting to be a therapist and a counselor at one time in my multiples of chains of careers, I do know people, and they were willing to help him out for like next to nothing. And yet he found other excuses for not going. And there's always going to be this aversion or fear that it's not manly enough, or they're not really going to listen to me. It's going to be something else, or whatever else the excuse is. Screw the excuses and just do it. It's simple. Shouldn't be no more difficult than just doing it. If Shia LaBeouf can actually say just do it, then just do it.
Yeah. Now I wanted to say take my turn to say the thing I wanted to say. Aside from that,
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think that what we're looking at here too, and this also probably feeds into or helps us understand why he may not be going in for therapy. Is it because he sees himself as a nuisance? He may even see himself as a nuisance to someone whose job it is to listen to them talk. When I look at his situation, according to his little story here. No one wanted to deal with him. He was a burden to everyone around him. So, of course, he'd probably feel like he'd be a burden to a therapist as well. But the thing is, your life has value. You have to understand that. Go find someone who's going to help you. And this is what they want to do, And also, and I think this is also kind of important to point out, as a child, when you're born into this world, you don't get to choose what your life is. You don't get to choose who your parents are, who your family is, or how you were raised. So all of these people that you are saying, you felt as though you were a problem for, or they resented you, or they didn't really want to deal with you, or you were a hassle to them, they're the ones that are your caregivers. It's their job to do that. If anybody is to be held responsible for where you are, it's them. And your mother, your father, whatever. That it's their. I mean, that's not your responsibility. You have to, now that you're an adult, you should take charge of your life and see what you can do to correct your situation. But what happened to you as a child, that was not in your hands. I mean, no baby is held responsible, or child is held responsible for the conditions they're in. And I think that because if the father's working like 60+ hours a week and apparently alone, then what kind of situation was he in that he had to do that just to put food on the table?
Well, you also have to look at the letter. That he also said that his mother was sick often, and that his brother really hated him. So that's pretty basically sibling rivalry right there.
Yeah.
As well as the sister who didn't want to be the caregiver was kind of opted as that option, that she's the only one that can do it. So really, he was put in a situation that he had no control over.
Yeah, exactly. I'm running to lag on my mute button now. That's exactly what I'm saying. So if you didn't really have any control over your situation, then you shouldn't blame yourself for your situation. So, Dio.
Okay, so I'm going to be sympathetic to this guy's case because while I didn't myself grow up in a house like this, I regularly visited a house like this. Once every couple of months, I'd spend a weekend at my aunts and uncles, and they had, from what he described, a very similar life, where the guy works all day, shit job, he has no education, barely scraping by, works manual labor, he's getting to 50, tough, and then a wife who's extremely lazy, self-centered, critical, and they basically run the gambit of bad marriage nightmare. There's violence, there's goading people into violence, there's holding, calling the police over people's heads, there's children involved, very traumatic stuff. And growing up in that, the cousins I have that are growing up in that currently, I don't know what's going to happen to them, but I'm getting ready to catch whatever falls, because I'm sure it's not going to be pretty. But it's very difficult, and it's very, very traumatic. And I think the youngest I experienced that house was probably 10 or 11, I think, was when I first saw them go at it with each other, and crazy stuff. So I sympathize with you, but you can't be afraid to go into therapy. The soft sciences have absorbed that field, but it really is not a soft science. It's not. The brain is a muscle. You have to work out those things that your subconscious buried back when your brain was developing. That they have to shine a light at where that is in the subconscious and how it's affecting your primal urges and affecting your life, and shine a light on those memories and pretty much walk you through them and let you know that it wasn't your fault. You don't have to be afraid, and you can see what you can do to avoid that dangerous situation that exploded on you when you were just a kid. You need to go shine a light on that, and you need to work through it with a professional that they can get you to move past that and stop yourself from defining yourself by that part of your life.
Thank you, Dio. You know what? I was going to have Mike go next, but Magnus has to jet, so I'm going to let you do Magnus. If you have a comment about this and then like a quick shill.
Yeah, nah, I've been up since like 3 o'clock this morning, so I don't really have a comment. I'm just gonna do my shields and take off because I need to stare at the back of my eyelids for a while. Um, I I'm just doing podcasts every weekend, Saturday nights from 7 to 9. If anybody wants to listen, you're welcome to. If you know want to be on the podcast, depending on what we're doing, feel free to shoot me a message. I'll add anybody.
All right, and how you want to put like tell them where to reach you at, and maybe drop it in the chat here before you go, and I'll make a copy of it and put it in the low bar.
Oh yeah, I've got a Twitter, of course. Every twit's got a Twitter, so yeah, I'll leave that in the low bar, and I'll see you guys later. Have a good night. It was great being on.
All right, thanks, Magnus. Have a good night. Mike.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so in response to the letter, look, do you know what happens to most of the men who grow up with almost nothing but women in their lives, with no male role models and barely a good word heard about men? The same thing that happens to men who grow up around nothing but Christians. They become unwaveringly religiously dogmatic. They become feminists of the most unreachable, brain-dead kind. They're all over the fucking place. So you ask us what went wrong with you? Well, not a lot, my friend, considering how catastrophically wrong it could have gone. You have done well not to fall straight down the bottomless well that most men in your position do. You are considerate of your own problems. You are sympathetic to other men's problems to the point that you will actually ask them and have a conversation with them that doesn't begin and end with we men are bad and we should bend over backwards for women, and if you don't, you're a misogynist. You're not looking back at your childhood and the world and saying men and men alone fucked it up. You may feel like you're in an unhealthy place, but trust me, you are not, all things considered. You are already on the path to healing. If you can cry for yourself, actually for yourself, and not just on behalf of women in society, you think you have a problem, but what you're experiencing right now is the beginning of a solution. And it's just a case of riding it out and fighting it out and waiting it out. Do you get me?
Yes.
I understand. You make sense.
You dodged a cannonball, kid. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, you dodged a really big cannonball.
Yeah. Like Menudo-sized. Schultz?
That was bad. That was bad.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Oh yeah, I still keep up with my friends in the medical field and all their professions, and when it comes down to the going to help for psychology, going to those psychologists, it's one of the bigger issues is most men are. It's usually never catered to a men's style of healing and stuff like that. More often than not, it's a lot of talking therapy and not really doing, because men and women are inherently different, and men as a whole, when they heal themselves, usually get healed better through action, through doing. Aversion therapy is one of the ones I've seen most men usually respond a lot better to. And I do feel that, yeah, there's a little bit of stigma, but after seeing that field and trying to deal with it, it's like most men, it's not there to help them for the most part. It's one of the other reasons why when I see men break off into small groups, even if they're hurt, a lot of them try to help out their fellow man, even for a little bit, letting them talk it out and just kind of like beat it out of themselves, just kind of like just let it just burn right off their souls in a sense, because I've seen them get so pent up and kicked down so hard and been broken that seeing another man actually stick out his hand for you and help you up and help you guide you back into pretty much a functional human being, you don't see that with a lot of. I've seen a lot with a lot of modern therapists, because it's a lot more of a talking therapy than an actual acting therapy that seems to me that men need more of.
Yeah. I would also, I mean, I don't know, like I have I listen to a few MGTOW YouTubers, and my favorite is actually Spetsnaz, and he has a lot of really good stuff that's just for men, like it's just focused on male improvement and stuff. So, and if you guys know any that also focus on the sort of like a self-improvement angle or like a psychological help angle, or at least just empathic for that from that view, instead of looking at like yeah, but we haven't seen any RBK stuff in a long time. But like people who are more about like that self-help stuff, then put it like, shoot a message in the chat, and those of you who are listening, put a comment. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read the next letter now. Paulo has made an inquiry. Hi, I was just wondering, would you be interested in doing a show about the issues within the Japanese culture? Could it have anything to do with feminism, or could I just be projecting Western problems onto their culture? I've watched this documentary and it got me thinking of the issue. I remember listening to you guys mentioning Japanese culture, but it was something quite brief. I was hoping you'd know something more about their possible problem. All right, well, it looks like what he's referencing is the grass eater movement. There is, and you guys might know, well, you all know about this because it actually was going on there before it was a big thing over here. At least I think so, in terms of like this current wave, as it were. So I'm going to give the floor over to Dio first. Dio?
Okay, yeah, he's absolutely right in that this has been going on in Japan for a while now. It's a little more quiet. It was kind of, I guess, an embarrassing thing for them, for the Japanese. But yeah, it's been going on for a while. Basically, what really kicked it off was economics. I mean, in Japanese tradition, the husband, as soon as they get paid, they hand their money over to the wife to distribute for the house. And then once the economy got hurt in Japan, people were getting paid less. These guys were getting less money to spend for themselves, even though they worked crazy amount of hours in intense, fucking no breaks, no monitored bathroom break work environments, and so a bunch of them just started to reject it all, and this kind of idea spread into the not yet married generation, and then it brought up a whole bunch of guys that were just not interested in that traditional lifestyle that's so common over there.
Yeah. Okay, James Hunter, welcome to the show. Do you have some thoughts about the grass eaters? And let me hear how your sound quality is.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic.
All right. So I've actually been into Japan. I've been studying Japanese language and culture for about 3 years now. And yeah, like Tio said, a lot of it is they're working these really hard hours to get not as much money as they used to, and they've just found that it's not worth it to spend all your money keeping your family happy when you could easily live by yourself. And another issue that doesn't get talked about so much here in the West is the hikikomori. I don't know if you all know about that. It's these men that withdraw from society and they just live in the houses by themselves, and that's put a big taint on it. And they look at the hikikomori and they say what a bunch of pathetic people that just hold themselves up, and they don't realize that the reason these men are withdrawing and entering into these massive depressive states is because they don't want to have to live up to the expectation of being the only working person in the house and maintaining a wife and a family of at least 2 children. That's my
Sorry.
spiel.
No, it's okay. Yeah, no. I was just going to say that before I give the thing over to MGTOW or James, no, MGTOW Universe, this is not just unique to Japan and the U.S. either. I've read this sort of stuff is happening in China, in Korea. It's happening everywhere. I think it's even going on in Sweden right now. It's becoming more and more common. MGTOW Universe?
Yeah, so Japan is in deep shit economically. The guys, the men over there, if they are working, they're most likely working part-time. And there are more, to my knowledge, there are more senior citizens in Japan than there are newborns. Now that's a big problem. So the men would rather play video games, they would rather do their hair, and they would rather eat sweets than to chase skirts. And so what women have responded to my understanding, is that they have started to go look for men in South Korea. So yeah, it would be very interesting to see what Japan looks like in the next 40 to 50 years from now.
All right. No, that's true. I would like to see how they do. I understand that their reproduction rates are going way down too, because not only do they have they're suffering economically. People, there's a lot of guys dropping out of society, and then on top of that, because of it, the reproduction rate is shrinking, and the senior citizen culture, or the senior citizen population is overwhelmingly large. So they're actually trying. They were anyway talking about trying to make administrative or stuff on the federal level, like changes to get men interested in work and marriage again. They'd have to like make traditionalism attractive, and I don't know that that's gonna work.
You can't ask women to be worker drones and be good mothers at the same time.
No. Okay, who's next? I think it's Nova. Nova Shadow?
Yep, that would be me.
All right, go ahead. Yep, you can hear you just fine.
I was just going to say that Japan really is the canary in the coal mine for Western society. It really demonstrates how when the economic system starts to crush underneath its own weight, that you suddenly see this movement pop out. It's not a coincidence that under the system of hardcore traditionalism in some aspects, as you said, with the extensive work hours, that all of a sudden we start to see more and more men dropping out and not partaking. We see them taking more part-time jobs, less of the full-time, obviously, and hence collapse. Really, that's all I had to say at the moment. I'm finding it hard to jump in.
No, it's because the chat and there's a lot of people in, so there's the lag in the but that's okay. We'll do the best we can.
I'm more of a question type guy. I get questions to me and then I answer.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, I mean if anything sparks your interest. Okay, so I think next is Lexicon, if I'm not wrong. Looks like it. I'm right. Okay, Lex. Lexicon. Oh, I know you got a delay, so that's okay. There you are. Is your microphone working? Oh no.
It's kind of hard to talk when you don't have lips.
Yeah, that's true. How are you going to? You're gonna make a phone call if you're unable to speak. Lex, I can't hear you if you're talking. I think we may have lost him.
Let's give him some time and just move to James for now.
Yeah, okay. James?
Yeah, about the birth rates, it's a lot of it is actually having to do with the way that Japan is set up, and some Western countries are even getting this way, especially the Eastern European, surprisingly. It's that since everybody's working and to a point the quality of life is getting to the point where people aren't interested in reproducing so much, but then there's also the technology has advanced so that we don't need to talk to people, so everybody just withdraws and just reproduction isn't happening.
Yeah. All right, James, you're back. Or Lex is back, I'm sorry.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic, sorry, yeah. I think I'm going to go after this bit, just, it's starting to slow down the computer here. It's not all the chat's fault, it's my computer's being weird today.
Okay.
But I just wanted to chime in with that, actually, about the grass eaters and the fertility comment, actually. And you guys may already know about this, but there's a game that came out a couple years ago, a video game called Catherine.
Yes. I actually own it. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a really good game.
It is fantastic, but it's just funny to me. Just jumped to the forefront here that the games, if you've gotten to the end of it, basically the overarching message is that it's kind of chastising the character for being a sort of a wishy-washy and not manning up and getting, going ahead and marrying her and putting some kids in her and turning into a traditional family. And the message comes from a point of view not of like another person or like, even a regular authority figure, but the point of view of a supernatural entity basically reaching down and saying, this is what you must do, and if you don't, you're doing it wrong. I found that to be very interesting, just looking at that in retrospect, that even amongst a video game sort of community in this video game culture, that we can still have this message come out and say, like, the hand of God come down and say, no, you are wrong, you must go make some babies.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fascinating to me, that we still have both, that there's still like a grass eater culture, that exists there in that kind of a, given that kind of climate towards them, that kind of emotional climate, and that you can have that come out of a video game, despite all the talk about how video games are all pro men and men and men empowerment fantasies, that you can have something like that come out.
Well, I mean, it's a Japanese game too, and it came out, right around. I mean, it didn't come out too long ago, so it almost it would. I mean, if it wouldn't really be a stretch to think that it could be a response to that, or at least an observation of it.
Didn't Atlas make that?
I'm sorry?
I believe
Atlas made that.
Right? I know that they have their sticker on the box. I don't know if they were developer or publisher or what.
Atlas.
Yeah, they're
the same guys that made Persona.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that the people that make the biggest like Weeaboo RPG are also making a game chastising guys that aren't getting serious. I mean,
well, yeah. Well, the whole thing is the main character is going through this this moral dilemma where he accidentally sleeps with a girl on one drunk night, and he also has a serious girlfriend who's looking to get married. So he's on this. You're basically making this moral choice ultimately between, freedom supposedly with like a fling with some blonde that's like a spur of the moment thing, and then a traditional lifestyle with your other girlfriend, and they both happen to have the same name. So it sort of tells you it's almost like both choices are not that much different.
Yeah.
But it's a fight between essentially traditionalism and gynocentrism in a way. I mean, the whole thing's kind of gynocentric, but you have to consider it's coming from Japanese culture, though, and they're looking at it from within that lens. And Japanese culture is very traditionalist. So that's sort of like probably how they're responding to the grass eater movement is like, what the fuck is this? We've never had this problem in so long, which is new to them.
Right. Well, and I was going to say, just in relation to that part of it, the protagonist is initially portrayed as having, a job that is apparently reasonably well paying. He supports his own apartment. It's not a big apartment, but it's Japan. And, seems to be self-sufficient. And one of the major things that I think that first jumps out when you're dealing with the ongoing girlfriend character is that she's telling him he needs to get more serious about pushing to advance, to become like a supervisor or something higher up the ladder, when it's pretty clear that, at least from the initial setup, that he's pretty happy where he is. That was interesting as well.
No, there's definitely pressure from his traditional girlfriend to be more aggressive. And the fling girl likes the way he lives. That's that thing. That's where the tension is at. And you have to make choices. So, but anyway, let me go. So thank you, Lex, for coming on.
Oh yeah, not a problem, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Talk to you later. Take care.
Take care.
Peace out, Lex.
Who's next?
I'm gonna really miss that face.
I think it was Arcade Fortune, but I'm not sure.
It could be. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it is. It is.
Is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I was going to kind of spend off of the one. Your game was kind of done in 2011. So yeah, it's going back a few years. So this has been an ongoing issue for them for quite some time. Traditionally, men, women got together in Japan, made babies, or men went to war to call the actual herd, so to speak, so they can make more babies. That was the ultimate tradition of Japan in some degree. They are in a very desperate situation where they don't know exactly what to do next, even if they take the government approach and giving some degree of perks for getting married and perks for having kids as well.
Tax breaks.
We really don't know if that's going to be successful.
All right. Let me give the floor to Schultz, and then and that'll be it. I'll go and welcome to the call, Yobi Axis or Sexy Boy. All right, Schultz.
Oh yeah, but no, actually, Catherine was a great example. Is that it was about the man's happy where he is, and the first girlfriend, I'm going to say it, wanted him to be more aggressive, and it's kind of, I think it's a very good sign seeing the Japanese culture producing a game like this, because I mean, you get the story part and you get the mechanic part, and I think it couldn't be done any other way than the puzzle platformer game, and with that tension with all those monsters chasing you, because mechanically it is saying that life is a puzzle, life is this really confusing thing, and how the hell do you get up through it, and the life that's you're pushing for, do you want to push forward and kind of be unhappy, or do you want to be content and happier in life and enjoy your life for what it is at the given time? And also, I think the Herbivore men have been around for what, about 10 or so years?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
And like that culture, plain simple, it's a very hard and industrious working culture, and it's a lot of that menial grind that's going to really hurt a lot of men, and I don't blame them for kind of rejecting it. And I'm talking to one of them, and he's a very nice guy, and he says that my happiness is the most important thing right now, because society's saying fuck you, and he says, you know what, if that's going to be how it's going to be, I need to focus on myself, and I think that's a healthy response to a unhealthy environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will also point out that if I think that it's quite possible that the grass eater thing's been going on for more than 10 years, and it's probably that people started taking notice about 10 years ago. Because if you think about it, like if a few guys start checking out, and maybe because I mean we already know that the whole, the idea of men going their own way has been probably going on for generations, but for a large part of it, most of the time, because of male disposability, people just didn't care. It was like, well, then you're a fucking loser, fuck you, and that's it. But now, with the internet, people that are doing that can actually come together and discuss it. But I think that grass eater stuff has been going on well before 10 years ago, because it's just that people didn't take notice until it started impacting the larger culture, and they're like, wait, where are these guys that are supposed to be doing, a service to our society? Why haven't we noticed this? And it's of course until now, and then that's when they start talking about it. Well, it's a little late now because the damage is done. It's like, it's like when people say, oh my God, the bread's gone moldy, when like all of it's green. Well, the shit started going moldy a while before that. You just didn't notice because you weren't looking. So, okay, so let me read the next letter. Oh, was there some? No, there was nobody next. Okay.
Brian, didn't you want to introduce the?
Oh yeah, Yobi Axis, welcome to the show. You want to say hello?
Hey, I know I'm gonna get hate for this avatar I have. Oh, you don't? You don't hate me for that?
No. No.
Why should we hate you?
Okay, that's cool. Hey, I used to be a MGTOW. I know I'm an anti-MGTOW now, but I used to be one back in the day before the MRM MGTOW split. And
so you were around the same time for like No Ma'am?
Sounds about right.
Because the way how you're explaining yourself, you were before the actual split, so that would put you in around No Ma'am time frame.
No Ma'am? Oh.
Ma'am. No Ma'am.
Oh, I know what that is, but I'm not exactly sure of
Basically,
what it means.
No Ma'am would be considered the founding, idea of, MGTOW and all the other things that we see today.
Like the masculinity for men, femininity for women, and limited government?
Something like that, yeah.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't. I didn't define myself by that definition. I define myself as somebody that just didn't want to get married. That's just it. And however, I also consider myself a men's rights advocate, really, because and the reason I left was because I saw how the men's rights movement had that conference last year, and that told me that they were really serious about holding the like advocating for men, while MGTOW is trying. Well, not all MGTOWs, but like the cult leaders like Barbarossa and all those, they were trying to like bring them down, all because Paul Elam made an opinion, and that's a key word there. He made an opinion in one of his videos that he believes that married men can be MGTOW. So that's that kind of really the real drama that went on there really bothered me with the MGTOW movement in the end there.
Yeah, well, that's why I pretty much separate myself from some of those ideas that Sandman, Barbarossa, and whoever you want to say that they're e-celeb status. And that's basically what they are. They're just e-celebs trying to say what the movement's all about in their opinion. Unfortunately, they're forgetting the actual title, men going their own way. So
yeah, if they just like left their drama and opinions at the door and just agreed to disagree, I wouldn't have this avatar right now.
Well, yeah, no, basically what it is this is why the feminists are moving in, trying to get the kills, because of the fact that we're all kind of fighting each other, trying to figure out whose ideas hold water better than the other person, when in actuality, we're just forgetting what the actual movement's all about. I think we've already covered this a while back.
Like someone put in the chat earlier that anything that makes a man happy counts as MGTOW, and that sort of reminds me of well, you might call it the difference between choice MGTOW and whatever the other MGTOW is. There's a certain group of men who think, well, whatever a man wants to do is MGTOW, but there's also presumably the equivalent of the Anita Sarkeesian school of thought.
I was just thinking.
Yeah, there is one. That's scary.
Paul Elam calls it pigtail.
You have to do what MGTOWs say is MGTOW, and that's what starts to worry me, you know. And it's ironic that they call MRAs the ones who are like feminists.
Yeah, because I'm like, MRAs are like, they're trying to be more inclusive with everybody, and they're not saying like nobody could be part of our movement. If you're married, you could be part of it. If you're MGTOW, you could be part of it. It's like if you're a woman, you could be part of it. As long as you advocate for men's rights and are anti-feminist, then good, you're one of us. But these people that want to put litmus test on what MGTOW means, I will say that I do believe that MGTOW can't be married, but to go so extreme like that kind of bothers me.
I'm gonna reel in the chat because I think there are people who have their names in, and I want to make sure no one gets skipped. Nova, did you want to say something to this?
Yeah, I propose a question to Yibyaxis, and my question would be
Yobiaxis.
Yobiaxis?
Yeah.
That's an interesting name, +1 for originality. I like it. My question would be, why do you think the opinions of these cult leaders are relevant enough to warrant an ideological shift from your perspective? The way I see this, MGTOW is supposed to be hyper-individualistic. It's men going their own way. Thus, when you come to MGTOW stating that, you know, there shouldn't be a litmus test, all your opinions shouldn't be forced down others, you are, in a sense, debating the ideas of MGTOW to other MGTOW, thus validating the fact that it is individualistic. What your definition of MGTOW is going to differ from Barbars, from Stardust, from Spetsnaz, from Nico. Thus, I can't understand how it is that we're supposed to take their opinion seriously. I understand that they have a large following, but that doesn't mean that they constitute all of MGTOW, and even if they were a large portion of it, the ideas are still being debated and tossed around.
Well, I guess it's really because like most people just seem to listen and believe what they're saying,
Oh, I would
I
agree there,
remember.
but that's why we need the infighting. That's why we need people like you.
Mm. I
Wait,
don't.
but I'm sorry, but how
I
do we
wouldn't
know?
really
How do
say.
we know it's most people? And I
That's what
only
I would.
say that because I want to. I'm sorry, I don't want to step on anybody here, but I only say that because I've heard that language when debating with feminists when they say most MRAs do this, most MGTOW are like this, and I don't know that number or that's like an easy thing to know. I mean, yeah, I'm subscribed to Barbarossa and Stardust too, but I haven't listened to one of their videos in a long time because and I mean not to be mean or anything, but I feel like the territory is well worn at this point, and there's really nothing new that they're offering me. So I'm most excited for stuff that guys like Spetsnaz have to say.
Spetsnaz.
Yes, and him too.
Yeah, you were saying it wrong. You mentioned numbers, and I was just going by like the numbers that all these MGTOWs have, like the
Right, but
Barbarossas.
Here's the thing. There's X amount of people who watch their videos, and there's X amount of people who don't. How exactly have you drawn their subscriber base and then polled that against the people who aren't watching? You see, what you don't know, what you lack in statistics, is the amount of people who have rejected their static definition of MGTOW. Thus, to me, I can't take you seriously when you say that you're judging it off of their subscriber base and things like that. I can understand. We can draw meaningful data from their subscriber base, and we can go in the comments, or we can poll people there, and we can get some good data off of that. But unless you have a means of comparing that against the null, against the group of people who aren't in that subscriber base, we can't do anything with that data. If you came here with like a poll demonstrating, how many think that Stardust is like on point, you agree with them, yes, slight yes, medium, no, and like strongly no. That would be fantastic. We could then have a conversation about the problems within MGTOW, because as you are the anti-MGTOW, supposedly there's a problem. And I would like to understand what this problem is, as I would consider myself a MGTOW, and thus, hey, I'm curious, we need these ideas debated around. But until you have the data to back this up, I can't do anything. What am I supposed to do with your opinions? Yeah, I've talked to you in the comments before about this, and to somewhat I agree. I agree that ideological dogma is bad. We should not be cramming our opinions down people's throats and suggesting that these are truth. But you're doing a very similar thing. You are coming to us suggesting that there is a problem with MGTOW, here's the problem, and yet, where's the support?
All right, I'm gonna let Yobi Axis reply, and then I'm gonna let Dio talk because he also wanted to say something. So Yobi Axis.
Oh, his name's on there.
No, it's cool.
Well, I'm going really by how I see it, really, because this is like a problem. Well, maybe not a problem now because everything's died down, but I've seen like this split, and I didn't really like where it was going because I've seen the MRM do a lot of good stuff for men.
Same here.
And I didn't want to see this split. I really wanted cooler heads to prevail back in the day. Last year.
Rationality is needed.
As far as numbers go, I do know that there are good like everybody here. Like what's that southern guy's name that drives Magnus? Yeah, I like him. He has pretty good opinions. He's like one of the cooler heads. Like everybody here is one of the cooler heads of like what MGTOW I feel should be. Like we can't have like. There's a lot of toxicity with certain MGTOWs. Like there's a couple on the
with like Messenger Rising.
Messenger Rising, like
I would agree.
Guy, I hate that guy. Yeah, when I saw him, he made a video response to John the Other, and I saw how John the Other had like half of all his views were downvotes, while Messenger Risings was a majority of upvotes, and that really upset me. Like to see that.
The thing. Does that mean that we have a radical sect that we need to deal with and bash, or does that mean that the whole of MGTOW is that way? What we need to find out from this idea is whether or not this can be applied to the larger spectrum of what we would consider MGTOW. See, when like people like Messenger Rising, I don't know how much of a following they have. I have no idea how much influence they have. So I can't right now begin to attack their position and suggest better methods. Like, unlike Anita, we can classify her level of influence. With Messenger Rising, we really can't. We don't know how many people are that extreme. Because, for instance, just as I am talking to you, you don't know whether or not I am extremely radical in any of my other beliefs or any other ideas. Thus, how are we to compare?
Well, I don't. There really isn't any. You're right. I can't really compare to anything because I only see the individuals in MGTOW, and I see a lot of the extremists, and
right.
it really turns me off. I know this is more my opinion when I do this. I'm trying to get more like a reaction from not from you guys, but from the radical MGTOWs.
Well, it's
and
like
usually,
you're like trying to bait them out so you can see how many there are. Based on
though of course I also get a couple of the good ones. I actually got Raging Golden Eagle upset with me for doing that video that I did with Dean Esme.
Yeah.
If anybody
did
saw
you do a
that.
video with him?
Oh yeah, I saw.
Yeah,
that.
it's on my channel.
Okay, I'll go check that out.
All right. Well, let me give the floor to. Well, first Max wants to say something because he can't stay. So I'm gonna let Max talk. Max.
Yeah, I got to drop out because I have a meeting in the morning, but I just want to say thanks for having me on, and I'm sorry if I've been a bit quiet. I'd rather just let the people who self-identify as MGTOWs talk, and I just listen. Plus, when it comes to the subject of MGTOW, I find that it's better just sort of getting on my concerns if we just have a one-on-one conversation like I did with Schultz. So if anybody wants to talk to me one-on-one, I'm more than happy to debate whatever. Just message me on Twitter at MaxStarrett, and we'll talk. Okay? Thanks so much for having me on.
Playing the observer is not a bad thing.
No, thanks, Max. You're my homie.
Thanks, Max.
You're my homie too, bro. Have a good night.
And I'll take it. Mike and I can handle it from here if he stays as sober as I'm going to, which is not at all.
I'm already drunk, so leave me alone.
You're from Chicago. You shouldn't be sober from this state.
Nice.
Okay, so Dio wanted to say something to Yovi Axis as well, I think.
More, I just between what him and Nova were talking about. I think I understand Nova's frustration that just because you disagree with some prominent MGTOWs doesn't really correlate to being anti-MGTOW, but just a different type of MGTOW. Just somebody with a different spin on the same ideology. But I also understand that right now what you're trying to do is call attention to the problem in MGTOW, and you're using an inflammatory name to get attention. And it's working, and people are listening, so I think you're doing good.
Yeah, it's a good strategy. It's why he's here.
Yeah, right now, right?
Thanks, dudes.
Thanks,
brothers.
I want to ask a question. James Hunter, you said in the chat, why can't we all just agree on Razor Blade Candy's stance? Why don't you tell me what that is? I just want to know so that we all got some context.
Okay, so RBK's or Razorblade Candy's stance with MGTOW was that there was a bunch of married men somewhere back in 2013, 2014. There was married men wanting to be part of MGTOW, and Paul Elam was making a big deal about this. And so Razor came out and he said, if you red pill after you get married, I would be fine calling you MGTOW, okay. But if you say you're MGTOW, and then you go and you get yourself married, you are dead to me.
Okay.
And so I'm just like, yeah, why can't we just say somebody who's already tied themselves in chains says, you know what I realized what I did, I can see the world in a new light now. But then somebody else who goes and says, I'm seeing the world in this bright red light, and then they just go and they get themselves smacked into prison.
Can we just agree why MGTOW means you don't get married? Can I just one sentence?
Wait, hold on. I'm gonna let you talk. I want to know what MGTOW Universe was the one who wanted to know what that was, and I'm curious to hear his stance on that.
Okay.
MGTOW Universe.
Wanted to know what was.
What our razor blade candy stance was, and now that we know what it is.
Yeah, I read. Again, like I said before, it's hard to do your own thing if you got the government breathing down your neck, and you got to do what the wife tells you. I mean, I'm conflicted because sure, MGTOW is whatever the man says it is, but it's hard to do your own thing when you're caught up in the system.
Yeah, and it is the system that's the problem. Like, because if the system didn't enable women to do the things that they do, they wouldn't really be able to do it. So they they wouldn't behave the same.
Correct.
It's like, why is this child spoiled? Well, because the parents spoil him.
Right.
Okay, so now the person who wanted to respond originally was is it James? I lost track. Who's next?
Pretty sure I wanted to say something. I don't see James.
Okay, Jarvis.
It was me, actually. But go ahead.
Well, hold on. I was just going to say the reason why I would assent to the notion that MGTOW means you must not be married is because by definition you really cannot go your own way if you have the state placing a leash over you. It's that simple. So I think for MGTOW to be an ideology, a philosophy, a position, I don't really know how to classify that, I would suggest that at least one concrete aspect to it is non-marriage, simply because of that state pressure right there. And whilst we recognize the system does have other means of placing a leash around you, marriage is one that not only gets you through social contracts, but it's hijacking your natural biology, your desire to please a woman in a relationship, your desire to have love in a relationship. That state contract is leashing you through both of those means, through social obligation and through your biology, which makes it especially devious and hence why you can't be married and a MGTOW.
I just wanted to add real quick that people who have been red-pilled after they were married, we're not saying that you're not allowed in the club, but I think what everybody's more talking about is the hypocrisy.
Right.
Of being of claiming that you're MGTOW, but then defending marriage, which is kind of the thread that connects all kinds of MGTOW.
Well,
the
we
problem
need
with marriage.
We need their ideas. The MGTOW men who, some reason, get married. I want to hear from them at least. I'm curious to know why it is they did what they did. From a psychological perspective, it's intriguing to say the least.
Okay. Yobi Axis, you wanted to respond to the razor blade candy thing?
Yeah, I wanted to add to James's point that not only did razor blade candy say that any married man is dead to him, but the thing is, I don't really care about that whole debate, like if a MGTOW can be married or not. I'm not really interested in that, and that's not really why I chose the path that I chose. But I wanted to add that Razorblade Candy made this 5-part series on why the men's rights movement will not succeed, which was packed full of lies that I could not believe nobody caught. Like he used like Matt Forney as one of the big reasons why. Even though Matt Forney has his own disgruntlements with the MRM itself, he used him as like an argument. And I thought that was ridiculous. What really upset me about that, though, was that nobody exactly countered his points. Nobody really responded to him.
I haven't seen the video.
Defended. There is one by. Do you know this guy named Spinosaurus?
Yep.
Yeah.
He made a video against one of RBK's videos. It's called A House Divided number 2 or 3. It's one of those, and I recommend that you check that out because Spinosaurus skin is cool.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
He's like my mini-me. I created Spinosaurus skin.
Well, Spinosaurus skin is a dinosaur. You're a panda. He's big. Dinosaur.
You can do some strange things with genetics these days.
Yeah.
We're all from the same tree of life.
And Mike is a dog. Doge.
Well, let's get a Chimera up in this bitch.
Yeah. I used to be a dog as well, but now I'm an anti-MGTOW symbol. But anyway, I just really got upset with the fact that
Speaking of which, I see like married men who recently discovered MGTOW as a little bit like cat owners. They know what they've got. They know it's not exactly a one-to-one relationship, but at least they understand what it is and they're trying to work with it. Whereas feminists are like dog people. They're completely buried under a landslide of bollocks and they're completely beyond help.
Oh. See, Yabyaxis, why is it my proposal to you, I guess? Why, instead of anti-MGTOW, why would you not call yourself just anti-irrationality? Because it seems as though you're not exactly opposed to the self-preservation methods imposed by MGTOW. Instead, you seem opposed to any sort of fanaticism and ideological shoving. Thus, why not name yourself anti-irrationality? Is there a point?
It doesn't have the same punch.
That is true. I like your style of baiting. It's fantastic.
So yeah, I'd never really even thought of that word, anti-rationality.
Anti-irrationality.
Yeah, that sounds like people will probably look at that and what does that mean? Like what's he against?
The internet being what it is would most likely consider you a philosophical blowhard and thus shit all over you.
I really am. I really am not. I'm not that smart. I'm not like Stardust or anything.
Mm.
Yeah, it's
all right. Let's not go there.
Yeah.
I know what that sound means.
Okay.
All right. No, you're good, man. I want to move on to the next letter. Is that cool?
Please do.
Go ahead. Yes. Go ahead.
All right. All right. Charles writes, "Hi. In Honey Badger Radio number 25, the MGTOW podcast, you asked for MGTOWs to talk with you. I am not a MGTOW, but have come to a superficially similar place from perhaps the opposite direction, and I think that might prove interesting. I'm 46, have decided against ever having sex with a woman again, and I'm not by nature interested in men, so no one else either. There are three interrelated reasons I've identified. The first and simplest is that my sex drive has slowed down due to age and the side effects of sertraline. The second is that looking back at my life so far, the worst times were generally the result of me pursuing relationships which involve sex, while many of the best times were relationships where sex was off limits from the beginning. The third is what I think will be interesting to your listeners. All right, before we continue with the story, I'm just going to say, note to self, do not smoke any sertraline. I love women, and they generally love me. And I have a lot of female friends, lots more than I have male friends. Though I have a good number of them too, I spent a lot of my life trying to make myself into what I thought women wanted. I took dancing classes, massage classes, I'm a good cook and a good earner. Friends have remarked on my obvious loyalty in my 2 marriages. I've long had a tendency to read or listen to advice on how to make women happy, both chivalrous ideals from the past and feminism from today. Strike 1 and 2. The problem with that was that a great deal of what is said by or on behalf of women publicly is not what most women literally want the world to be like. Hannah pointed out in number 25 in that women tend to address what's good for themselves and their immediate loved ones rather than what's good for the entire world. A huge amount of the public dialogue has been aimed at making survivors of rape or sexual harassment realize that they were not complicit and share no guilt on the crimes against them. This is a worthy goal and has my complete support. Of my women friends, way too many have been genuinely assaulted with actual physical force, not some unwelcome words or unpleasant looks. And they really did struggle with the idea that they shared some responsibility for provoking it, even though they clearly did not. However, the dialogue has been overgeneralized because it is aimed at making the hurt feel better, and no consideration is spared for a working system of behavior and interaction. I cannot have sexual relations with a woman without guilt, because there is no circumstances where a woman is acknowledged to be responsible for her own choices in this area. I always feel that I have taken advantage of her, regardless of what she says before, during, and after, and I would rather never feel that again than ever have sex again. My second wife left me because I was all about yes means yes, and she found another man who was a lot less into verbal enthusiasm and a lot more Christian Grey. She's much happier with him, exactly because of the iron self-control I exercise to be what I was told, the best man for her. I didn't learn the correct lesson from that experience. I delved into BDSM world, where negotiation is even more emphasized, whereas what so many women want is to be made to feel desirable and desired exactly because of his aggressive pursuit. The thing is, though, I agree with and prefer yes means yes concept, whether women actually like it and respond to it or not. There are certainly women out there who do like and respond to it, and I found some before realizing that even that doesn't matter to a feminist culture. They never want to hurt women to feel any guilt. So women are never responsible under any circumstances. Feminist culture says women cannot choose because they cannot be held to have chosen. Since I live in this culture and I never want to be with a woman who didn't choose to be with me, I can't be with a woman at all. I think this is going to work out very poorly for women, as gradually the only men left will be the ones who are ignoring what they are saying. They may work out for the best sometimes, but I can't imagine it will be a disaster overall, or it will not be a disaster. I still love women as friends. I enjoy dancing to EDM, and much more when I've got friends to dance with. My women friends joke that I've got my own harem as I'm at clubs with 2 or 3 women at a time, but my actual role is more like a stereotypical gay friend. I've never done a podcast thing, but I'd be happy to talk about this with you one-on-one if you'd be interested. Regards, Charles. And that's the end of the letter. So, let me see. Who's next? Is it RK Fortune?
Yeah, if you want to keep me keeping it next, you blue duck. Wow, you just awesomely blue.
I know. I don't know what's going on with my face rig, but I'm coming out blue as fuck right now.
Yeah, no, I keep thinking Eiffel 65.
Yes, that's exactly right. Like my car. And I don't know.
Yeah, he's just a blue everything. No, I guess leading into it, he should cut out the drugs possibly, because that may help him just a little bit. Unless he's using it for arthritis or something, then he might want to talk to his doctor to see if there's an alternative. You might put him back into the game if he wants to go back in there. As for the latter part of his rant, we'll call it that, he's kind of on the ball for a little bit. Yes, feminists, no matter what, are going to be doomed trying to find who they deem as what they desire. And what they usually desire is a person who's going to take charge. And, use them as the, sexual orifice that they so desire. Ultimately, that's what most women like. They have this whole rape fantasy thing that exists. That's why 50 Shades is a popular book, more so than Harry Potter in some cases, and they're looking on making more to it, which is scary. But needless to say, as for the gynocentrism that is prevalent in the Western society, it's just going to turn sour, and this is why MGTOWs exist. It's because of the factor that we want to be able to go on our own way, choose what we want to do, and be in a relationship if we so desire to be in a relationship with. Whether we come out married to go into MGTOW, or we go from MGTOW to go married, to go out of marriage to go into MGTOW again, realizing that it wasn't all the candies and treats that we were promised while going into the deal. And that's basically, the end of all of this. It's going to be a while before at least the feminists see that what they're doing, especially the fourth wave, third wave, whatever they are fucking up society. And they're fucking it up really big.
I think we're moving into the fourth wave at this point.
I've lost count. I've got past the second and kind of went, fuck it, I don't know anymore.
No, I get that.
They're all batshit crazy.
Divided.
James?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like he was kind of grooming himself for the gay friend role, even though he wanted to eventually end up with one of the women that he was trying to impress. And when you do that and you don't get the girl that you want, it will lead to depression, and you actually really have to be careful about what drugs your doctor is assigning to you, because citrulline sounds like the antidepressant his doctor told him to do for his depression. But you look at the side effects of citrulline and Ritalin and all these other drugs that are either massively put to men or are male only prescribed, and they wreck the natural hormones in your body. And my advice to everybody that I know or can talk to is research the medicine before you take it from your doctor. Don't just think that because he's a professional, he knows what's good.
Actually, the best person to talk to is your pharmacist. The doctors really don't know exactly what they're prescribing because of the factor that for them it's all about money. Actuality, it would be the pharmacist that you'd want to talk to. They would be the ones that would have a lot of knowledge in the medical, or at least the drugs that you're about to ingest. They're the ones that have to, filter this all out. So yeah, talk to you. In all case, if you're not 100% sure, definitely talk to your pharmacist. They should be helpful to you. If they're not, find a new pharmacist.
Yeah. Sorry, James, were you finished?
I was mostly finished. Towards the end, he was just saying how depressed he was. Other than avoiding citrulline as much as possible, just getting to a good psychiatrist sounds like what this guy needs to do.
Yeah. Yobi Axis?
Oh, never mind. I thought we were gonna answer something else.
Oh, okay. Nova Shadow?
I was just going to say that it sounds like this man has a problem infantilizing women and not really, I'm not going to call him a misogynist and all that jazz, that's ridiculous. But it seems as though by his mention of regret, guilt, and he feels as though he's utilized some means of coercion when it comes to sexual intercourse, it appears that he has this mental prototype of what a female is in his head, and what's actually going on in reality just is not matching. So I would suggest, A, change expectations. First, you don't go into the situation with an idea of what to expect, in this case at least. Most others you would. In this case, I suggest just play the observer type, get a feel of the land, and see what's going on, examine the behavior of both individuals involved, and move on from there.
Yeah. Nova? Oh, that was you. I'm sorry.
That was me.
Schultz.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was talking about how he wants to be with a woman. It's like it's another breakdown of male-female relationship you see right there. I mean, I'm gonna hedge a bet that he probably didn't have yet again another strong role model father figure. It's when you see the changes since the early 20th century, the courting ritual has massively changed to a degree that it's almost, for all intents and purposes, gone. And that we have these yes means yes laws, and it denies the nature of male-female interaction. Plain and simple, there are some pulls and draws that men and women inherently like in each other, and that we are trying to act like, oh, we can be reasonable, this is how it's supposed to be done. And yes, the affirmative consent laws that are put in there completely deny body language as how to interact, and him feeling guilty has been in a culture that pretty much shames the nature of that. Oh, if you're aggressive, you want to go after a woman, if you want to court a woman or date a woman in a normal, natural way that feels intrinsically normal, it's seen as horrible and bad, and he's constantly having this idea like, oh my god, that's so bad, it's so horrible, and he's pretty much taking shame in constantly concentrating it within himself instead of realizing that men and women interact in such a different way intimately, and that you kind of have to you have to gauge each woman out, but there are some like telltale signs of a woman's kind of like has a little higher pitched voice, kind of intimate, close up to you, touching you gently, even for no reason like a punch or a tap, and not acknowledging that there's another level of intimacy and interaction that when dealing with relationships that comes out, and him feeling guilty, he should not be feeling guilty in any way, shape, or form, because what he at least inherently was trying to do beforehand, before he had the stupid notion of affirmative consent constantly going through his brain, he's trying to do what is natural, and society and feminist culture and engaging the highly feminine, radical feminist notion, like, oh, you have to do this, you gotta be all nice. No, like, that's not how it works. He's denying just basic, natural, fundamental procedures of how men and women date, interact, and are intimate with each other.
Yeah. Dio.
All right, so just based on what I hear in the letter, I can't help but think this sounds like a phobia. It sounds like this guy's afraid of having sex for fear of raping somebody accidentally. And I'm going to tell you right now, buddy, if you're listening, you're not going to rape somebody accidentally. Accidental rape doesn't happen unless you're drunk. Maybe in certain circumstances if people are drunk. Well, if people are drunk, I wouldn't even call that rape. But accidental sex that neither person wanted, that's the most extreme case where that could possibly happen. So just don't drink. But you can't be afraid that you're accidentally going to violate somebody's consent. It does not take a genius to know if a woman's consenting or not. They make it more and more obvious as time passes. So I mean, and you know, I understand you have the fear of, what if this woman decides to fuck me over? What if this woman decides to destroy me with all the tools, all the legal tools she has at her disposal? And that's a very valid fear. But also keep in mind that only 18% of women identify as feminists. So it's not something to be pathological about.
Yeah. The only thing I was going to say is, you know, while it's true that you can't really accidentally rape someone, technically speaking, that system, you will get screwed. And I can see how he'd be afraid, but I think the main thing that's limiting this guy, and Schultz already touched on it, and all of you guys really touched on it, is he's carrying over that feminist thinking, and that combined with that chivalry, and it's actually impeding his odds. It's ruining, you know, his chances with women. He did groom himself to be the gay friend, but you know, I'm not gonna stand here and tell him, you know, what he did wrong. I'm just, you know, I think it's good to know so that you can try to correct it. But you know, when you look at what women are reacting to, in terms of, you know, like whether the 50 Shades of Grey type stuff, and like generally they like assertiveness. They like men that make their boundaries clear, that tell women what they expect and what they want. That doesn't mean they have to do it, but they find that attractive. If that's what you want, and this is the great thing about it, is that if you're the kind of man that basically works on establishing his boundaries, communicating his intentions, you know, always basically makes it clear where he's going, what he's doing, and then he basically says to any people, whether they're his friends, his peers, his coworkers, or women that he might want to get involved with, this is what I'm doing. You can be, you know, like down with me, hang out with me, be my friend, or not. Frankly, I don't care. I don't need your, you know, I don't need you to co-sign on my behavior. I don't need you to kiss my ass. I'm gonna do this regardless. That is, I think, for me anyway, that is something that I carry in my life. And the funny thing is, it actually has the side effect of attracting people. Not just women, but I mean, you can make friends this way. Male friends find it attractive. They, you know, it's just that whole. It's not that you don't care out of a sense of complete apathy. It's more that you don't live your life according to other people's expectations. You live them according to yours. And women actually like that. I mean, you know, and you don't have to care about that, but I'm just saying it just happens to be a side effect of that. And that feminist thinking that he brought with him, it's not just going to hurt him, it's hurting women, like regular women. It's hurting the relationship between men and women in general. And I think that we have yet to see what the fact that we're having this conversation now shows how much damage this is doing. And like when you look at single motherhood and you look at the growth of the welfare state and you look at what's going on with our economy, this is all a result of the issues between men and women. I personally believe, and I'm going to get off my soapbox after this, all of the problems that we're running into with everything that's going on in with politics, with nationalism, with race, with culture, with religion, with all of this stuff, with shootings, all of it comes down to men and women. I think if the relationships between men and women were better, all of this stuff would be better. I think that and this is what I think that the MGTOW movement is a really important facet of that, because while MRAs are trying to point out what's wrong with the system and how the system is broken and how it's damaging men and boys and how it's affecting us in a real tangible way, the MGTOW are like a symptom of that as well. When women are saying, where are all the guys, and they're like, well, we're over here, and we're not interested in you because we see that this isn't worth our time, our money, our energy, our effort, our emotional baggage. It's not worth it, and we're walking away, and more of them are doing that. At some point, society is going to have to respond to it. I mean, and you're looking at Japan, like you said, there's a canary in the coal mine. So, RK Fortune?
Yeah, I was going to kind of spin off of that since you've actually touched on most of it. We live in a world, especially in the West, where everything is dictated to us. And within that dictatorship that we actually face, totalitarianism, or whatever you want to call it, it's causing some problems, some big waves. And in order to fix that, we have to eliminate those stupid rules that have been enforced on us, whether it be feminist, yes means yes, or whatever that may be. Once those are eliminated and people go back to the way they, in general, used to be, most of the Western world, and again, I'm going to be facing most of the West because this is where most of it is, will kind of sit itself back into the right place. And then we'll be dealing with the other issues that come to us. But yeah, as Brian mentioned, once we fix this problem with relationships, we should see more of a turnover of going in the right direction. And you're a lovely shade of blue.
And that's because I haven't jerked it all day. And this is what happens if you don't tug it, guys. You turn blue.
Someone in the comments said that they drank too much NyQuil. That's why you're blue.
It's just because I haven't jerked it today. All right. And this is what happens. These are the side effects.
You sure it's not just a lighter? Because you're almost a lighter shade of purple, then you'll be like really need of it.
No, I understand that purple dogs are weird to women. Okay, so next is looks like Nova. So
yeah.
Nova?
So to get back to the letter, there was 3 points that I wanted to make. This is, to me at least, this is what feminists seemingly want to happen to the male identity. Secondly, the notion this man holds is entirely self-destructive. His quest to seek a proper relationship in his eyes is going to be entirely mitigated by the fact that these ideals he holds so far are going to repel the type of women he wants. Any self-respecting female this man is going to be attracted to is going to be extremely turned off by the views he holds, thus self-destructive. And then the last thing, it doesn't really matter if you can't accidentally rape someone. The system is going to ensure that his guilt does not go unpunished. His feelings are going to be quantified and unjustly punished.
Yeah. This is exactly the consequence of that. You're right. MGTOW Universe?
Okay. So, Brian, you made an extremely bold statement when you said relationships are the source. I mean, we can fix that, then we can fix pretty much everything else. Here's my question. What kind of relationships, romantic relationships, do you see where we can fix those problems? Because when I think about traditional relationships, that So,
Well, you're breaking up a little bit. What was that? When you think of traditional relationships, what?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So when I think of traditional relationships, that's a crappy deal for men also. So how would that work? How would we fix relationships to fix everything else if the optimal scenario, quote unquote, is crappy for men as well?
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Someone in the comments called Second Wave suggested that I stated not attracting women is self-destructive. Is this guy for real? I want to clarify. I did not state that his inability to attract females is self-destructive. I stated that his infantilization, his guilt, his how he feels he coerces females into sexual intercourse. I stated that those notions are self-destructive because his goal to attain a woman is going to be mitigated by that fact. So Second Wave, I hope that clarifies my point. I don't know how you missed that.
I have something to add to the idea of traditional marriage. The only question I would have to ask is what form of traditional marriage are we talking about here? Are we talking about the day when the dowry was around, or are we talking about what we see now in the West, where it's just basically somebody says the I do, signs a couple of papers, and go their merry little way? So what is your consideration of traditional marriage?
The man does most or all the work, and the woman is a housewife.
So basically, you're talking about the thing that happened roughly about, say, the 1930s.
Yeah, we can say, I guess, the 1950s model or whatever it is.
Okay, so it's the nuclear family type. Okay, cool. Because, like I said before, I need to have a little bit more, contents when you say traditional marriage, because I can go back pretty far with the idea of traditional marriage, and it goes back to dowry. So, and that's pretty much, almost like an Eastern approach.
Well, I'd like to respond to that. Now, I don't have all the answers, but I don't think that going back to a model that we had before is...
You're kind of staticky there.
You sound like a robot.
You sound very weird and robotic-y. It's like almost like a static thing going on.
I
So
wanted
what are
to
you,
talk
like a
about
robot dog now?
traditional marriage too, but okay.
Wait a minute. You know what?
Am I?
How do I still
Maybe that
sound
weapon
bad?
ground program.
Hold on, I'm going to turn off my camera. All right. Does that sound better by any chance?
Not
It
really.
actually slightly improved it, but not by much.
What the fuck? All right.
Not downloading.
Hold on. I'm not doing anything. All right.
Stop downloading porn onto your.
Is this better?
Almost better.
God damn it. I don't know what's going on. I want to respond and I can't.
He has blue balls and he's watching porn. He's trying to talk to us at the same time.
I would say I'd leave, but I can't do that because if I do, I don't know what will happen to the stream. Well, okay.
The stream will survive. It'll still be here, and you can possibly get back in depending if somebody doesn't jump in already.
Yeah, because you got about 5 minutes when you drop.
All right. I'll be right back.
Doesn't go to